Good morning, my dear friend. The first light of dawn gently touches the edges of the sky. I welcome you into this sacred moment. Morning has a way of whispering to the soul in a language that only the heart can understand. The world is still quiet, the air is cool, and the heavens seem closer than they ever are at any other hour. This is the hour when burdens feel lighter, when hope feels possible again, and when the spirit becomes more willing to listen. Perhaps you are waking up today with something heavy pressing on your chest. Maybe you spent the night turning from side to side, unable to rest because of a fear that grips you, a memory that refuses to fade, or a loss that still echoes through the empty corners of your heart. You might feel like the person who sits at the edge of their bed every morning, staring at the floor while asking silently, how am I going to make it through another day? Life can break even the strongest among us. Pain has a way of arriving uninvited and staying longer than we ever expected. But here, in this fragile hour before the world fully awakens, there is a gentle truth waiting for you. Even in your trembling, even in your uncertainty, you are not alone. The dawn itself is a reminder that darkness never has the final word. The sun rises not because the night has been perfect, but because grace remains faithful. In the same way, your spirit rises today not because everything is resolved, but because you are called into something deeper than fear and stronger than sorrow. This is where the journey of prayer begins, not in perfection, not in strength, but in honesty, in the willingness to whisper, I am here, and I need something greater than myself. When you open your heart in this early morning stillness, the weight that felt unbearable begins to loosen. The questions that haunted you soften. The ache that lived in the center of your chest begins to release its grip. Prayer does not erase reality, but it transforms the place you stand in. It draws you out of the shadows of yesterday and leads you into the promise of a new beginning. So as the sky brightens and the world opens its eyes, I invite you to breathe deeply and prepare your heart. You are stepping into sacred territory, not by accident, but by divine invitation. Let this moment become a doorway where hesitation turns into courage, where sorrow becomes seed for hope, and where silence becomes a meeting place between your spirit and the one who understands you completely. Open your heart now. Set aside the noise within you. Allow this morning to carry you into a conversation that will strengthen you, steady you, and anchor you in truth. Your journey is beginning, and you do not walk it alone. Dear Heavenly Father, this morning, I come to you not with strength, but with trembling hands and a weary heart. I do not arrive here full of words or certainty. I come quietly, almost afraid to speak, because the pain I carry feels too deep to name. The sun is rising outside my window, but inside, my soul still feels caught in a long and endless night. I barely slept. My thoughts ran wild through the dark, chasing every fear, every failure, every moment I wish I could take back. I am tired, Lord, not just in my body, but in places no one sees. I feel lost in the weight of everything, and I do not know how to begin again. But here I am, whispering into this silence, hoping you will hear me. I do not have eloquence today. I do not have clarity. I just have the ache in my chest and the quiet hope that maybe you are still near. I need you, not in the loud ways, but in the quiet places where I am falling apart. I do not need a miracle that shakes the world. I need the gentle hand that holds me together. I need to know I am not forgotten. It is strange how morning can feel so empty. The world is waking, but I feel like I am still buried under yesterday. I try to move, to stretch, to breathe deep, but there is a knot in my soul that will not untangle. My heart is heavy with things I cannot explain to anyone. Regret, loneliness, fear that keeps me from moving forward, shame that whispers I will never be enough. There are things I carry that I do not even have words for, only silent tears that come when no one is looking. And yet, even here, even now, I sense the smallest flicker of light, not in my strength, but in yours. Not because I see the way ahead, but because something in me still believes that you are who you say you are. That even when I am at my weakest, you are still strong. That even when my soul is numb, you do not walk away. So I reach for you in the dark. I reach not because I feel worthy, but because I have nowhere else to go. And maybe, just maybe, this is where you meet me. I do not know how to fix what is broken inside me. I do not even know how to pray right now, but I offer you my truth. I feel abandoned. Though I know you promised to be near, I feel like a failure. Though you call me loved, I feel like the storm will never pass. But I have heard you calm the winds before, so I wait. I breathe. I lay my broken pieces before you, not knowing what you will do with them, only that you are the one who never discards the shattered. Dear Father, you see it all, the parts I hide, the parts I am ashamed of, the memories I cannot outrun, the silence that screams louder than words. You see the questions I am too afraid to ask, and the prayers I am too tired to speak. But you also see the teeniest ember still burning in the ashes. The part of me that has not given up completely. The part that is still whispering. Help me. Stay with me. Hold me. I do not want to pretend. I do not want to put on a mask in front of you. You know me too deeply for that. So I bring you what is real. The raw. The restless. The hollow places I try to fill with distractions. But they always return. I bring them here, now, because this is all I have. And somehow, I believe that is enough for you. You are not waiting for my perfection. You are waiting for my honesty. And this morning, this is my offering. You say your mercies are new every morning. I do not feel them yet, but I want to. I want to believe that something sacred still exists in this day, even if I am too broken to see it. I want to believe that you still come close to the weary, that you still stoop low to lift the hurting, that you still breathe peace over chaos, and that you still call names in the dark. I want to believe that you are whispering mine now. I remember stories of people who met you in their despair. Jonah in the belly of the great fish, crying from the depths. David in the cave, alone and hunted. Elijah under the tree, asking to die. And you came to each of them, not with punishment, but with presence, not with condemnation, but with care. You heard their groans, not just their words, so I trust you will hear mine too. If I am honest, I do not expect to feel better right away. I do not expect my heart to change in an instant. But I need to begin somewhere, and so I begin here, on this quiet morning, with nothing to offer but myself, not the polished version of me, not the part that pretends everything is fine. Just me. The hurting, the unsure, the tired, the one who wants to believe that morning light still holds promise, the one who dares to hope that you have not walked away. So as the day unfolds, I ask only for one thing, that I would not be alone in it, that you would walk with me, even in silence, that you would remind me I am seen, even when I feel invisible, that you would hold what I cannot carry and mend what I cannot fix. I do not need all the answers today. I just need to know you are still here, and I choose, however shakily, to believe that you are. This is my prayer, Lord, the beginning of something small, something honest, a reaching out from the pit, a whisper in the morning quiet. I do not know where this road will lead, but I want to walk it with you, even if I limp, even if I crawl, even if my faith feels fragile. I want to begin again, not because I feel ready, but because I cannot do this alone, because you are my only hope, because you are still good, because you still come close. Father, as I continue from the place where my heart ended in the last quiet moment, I feel the lingering tremble of everything I poured out before you. It is strange how speaking truth, even softly, can leave the soul both exposed and relieved. I woke today with the same heaviness, but now it feels slightly loosened, as if admitting my frailty made space for something gentler to breathe within me. I am still unsteady, still unsure, yet there is a faint steering that urges me to take one more small step toward you, not with boldness, but with sincerity. I want to come honestly, without hiding, without shaping myself into someone I think you would prefer. I want to stand in the rawness of who I am and trust that you will not pull away. I have spent so much of my life learning how to hold myself together, how to pretend, how to make my voice steady even when my soul is trembling. But this morning, I sense you inviting me to shed those layers and speak without filters. I sense that you are not asking for polished words or strong declarations, only for the courage to reveal what lies beneath the surface. And so I let myself acknowledge the pieces I usually keep tucked away, the fears I dismiss in front of others, the doubts I never speak aloud, the longings I ignore because they feel too vulnerable to touch. I place them all before you now, not as offerings of faith, but as confessions of what is real. Lord, it feels unfamiliar to speak so freely. There is a quiet shame that rises when I reveal my hidden corners, as if you might look at them and decide they are too messy, too tangled, too burdensome. But as I sit here in this tender silence, I sense no rejection. Instead, I feel something steady and patient, something that waits for me to continue, So I let myself breathe deeper and speak more honestly. I confess the anger I carry from wounds that have not yet healed. I confess the disappointment that echoes when prayers linger unanswered. I confess the tension between wanting to trust you and fearing what surrender might cost. These feelings are not noble, yet they are mine, and I offer them because hiding them has never brought me peace. Father, the more I reveal, the more I realize how tightly I have been holding everything inside. I have worn strength like armor, believing it would keep me from falling apart. But this armor has also kept me distant from the comfort I desperately needed. I thought that if I stayed composed, I could avoid pain. But the truth is that pain finds its way in regardless. What I lacked was not toughness, but tenderness. The tenderness that comes from bringing my true self into your presence, trusting that nothing I reveal will cause you to withdraw. This morning, I want to learn that kind of trust. I want to practice honesty as a form of worship, believing that you value truth spoken in weakness more than silence spoken in fear. As I speak these words to you, I notice how my breathing changes. It slows. It steadies. It softens. It is as though my body recognizes what my mind is still learning. That honesty with you is safe. That I do not have to rush. That I do not have to pretend. That I do not have to find solutions before I come. You are not waiting for me to fix myself. You are waiting for me to allow myself to be seen. And in this small realization, a quiet shift begins. The weight I woke with does not disappear, but it feels shared. Less sharp, less consuming. I sense your nearness not as a sudden miracle, but as a slow, warm presence settling into the very places I uncovered. God, help me continue in this way. Help me resist the urge to retreat behind my old defenses. Help me choose honesty even when it feels uncomfortable. Teach me that you are not frightened by my truth, nor overwhelmed by my contradictions. Teach me to believe that my unedited self is not a disappointment to you. Teach me that drawing near does not require perfection. Only willingness. I want to bring my confessions with open hands, trusting that you will hold them gently. I want to believe that every honest word draws me deeper into your grace, not further from it. And so I stay here a little longer, letting these truths settle. The morning is unfolding slowly, and my heart is unfolding with it. I came to you carrying fear, but now I feel the faint echo of courage. Not the loud kind that shouts, but the quiet kind that whispers, yes, I can keep going. Yes, I can keep speaking. Yes, I can bring even the hardest parts of myself into the light. This growing courage is not mine alone. It is the gift that comes from being welcomed, seen, and understood by you. And for the first time in a long time, that feels enough. It feels like the beginning of something true. Lord, as I continue from the place where honesty began to loosen the weight inside me, I find myself sitting more quietly than before. Something softened in me after speaking the truth in the last moment. As if my own words made room for yours to come near. I am still fragile, still uncertain. Yet there is a faint sense that you are drawing close in a way I did not expect. It is subtle, almost like a shift in the air around me, or a warmth rising slowly through the places I had long kept numb. I do not know how to name it yet, but it feels like mercy. Not loud, not dramatic, just a gentle whisper reaching toward me at the edges of my exhaustion. I realize now how long I have carried the assumption that you only come when I feel strong or worthy or spiritually awake. But this morning is teaching me something different. It feels as though you lean closer, not despite my weakness, but because of it. The quiet ache inside me seems to catch your attention, not repel it. And in this soft realization, my breathing steadies. I feel the faint touch of compassion settling like early morning light on a window pane. Not enough to brighten the whole room, but enough to remind me the sun is rising beyond it. Father, I am not used to noticing these small movements. I am used to looking for big answers, clear signs, sudden relief. But what reaches me today is something smaller and strangely deeper. It is the awareness that you are here, even when my emotions cannot sense it fully. It is the gentle truth that you do not rush me or pressure me or demand more than I can offer. Instead, you meet me in these quiet spaces with a patience I still struggle to understand. I expected correction. I expected silence. But what I feel instead is tenderness. Like you are gathering the fragile parts of me without hurry. There is a moment, Lord, when the soul becomes still enough to hear what it has been missing. I think I am stepping into that moment now, not because everything inside me is calm, but because something in me is finally listening. I hear a quiet reassurance forming beneath the noise of my fears, reminding me that I have been held through nights I did not think I would survive. Memories begin to rise, not of pain, but of the ways you have quietly carried me before. Times I did not notice that strength came at the exact moment I was about to break. Times when comfort appeared in ways I could not explain. Times when, even in my confusion, I was somehow kept from falling apart completely. These memories feel like gentle echoes, calling my heart back to truth. They are not grand stories. They are small mercies, scattered through days I once counted as ordinary. The unexpected kindness from someone who had no reason to notice my struggle. The breath of calm that arrived in the middle of panic. The moment when despair loosened just enough for me to choose to continue. These were not coincidences. They were pieces of your compassion woven quietly into my life. I did not see it clearly then, but as I sit here now, I feel them returning as reminders of how faithfully you have walked beside me. God, this realization does not erase the heaviness I still feel, but it wraps around it like a gentle arm. It tells me that the same mercy that held me before is holding me now. It tells me that I do not have to earn your nearness or fight for it. I only have to pause long enough to notice it, and so I try. I let myself sit with this truth a little longer. I let it seep into the corners of my heart that have forgotten how to feel safe. I let myself breathe with more ease, trusting that mercy is not a rare event, but the quiet rhythm of your presence. As I reflect on this, something shifts inside me. A small spark of gratitude begins to rise, fragile but real. I am grateful not because everything is resolved, but because you are gently drawing me toward hope again. I am grateful because your mercy did not wait for me to be whole. It reached for me in the middle of my confusion. It reached for me when I had nothing to give. It reaches for me even now, in this tender morning, whispering that I am still loved, still held, still seen. Father, let this awareness stay with me. Teach me to hear these whispers even on days when my heart is loud with sorrow. Teach me to recognize your compassion in the smallest of places. Teach me to trust that your nearness is not dependent on my feelings, but on your unchanging love. Let this gentle encounter become the beginning of something deeper, something that slowly untangles the knots inside me and leads me toward a steadier peace. For now, I rest in this soft truth. Mercy is present. Mercy is near. Mercy has followed me into this morning, not because I deserved it, but because it is who you are. And for the first time in a long while, that feels enough. God, as I follow the gentle trace of mercy that touched me in the last quiet moment, I feel something inside me shifting. It is not dramatic, not sudden, but it is real. The heaviness I carried when I first opened my eyes is still present, yet it no longer feels like the only thing defining this morning. There is a small clearing inside me, a space where your compassion has settled, and it invites me to take another step. I sense that step leading me toward something simple but deeply needed. Learning to give this day to you before anything else reaches for my attention. I have spent so many mornings waking with tension already rising in my body, my mind racing ahead of the day as if I had to carry every moment on my own. I have rushed into tasks, responsibilities, and expectations before even catching my breath. I have allowed the noise of the world to set the tone before my heart had a chance to settle in your presence. But today feels different. Today, I want to begin not with worry, not with pressure, but with surrender. I want this day to be placed in your hands before it ever enters mine. Lord, as I sit in this stillness, I let myself acknowledge the truth. I cannot control what this day will bring. I cannot manage every outcome, solve every problem, or protect myself from everything that might hurt. I have tried that path for too long, and it left me exhausted, anxious, and stretched thin. So instead of gripping onto the hours ahead with fear, I offer them to you with trembling trust. I ask you to stand at the center of what I will face today, not as a distant watcher, but as the one who guides each step with wisdom I cannot find on my own. There are things I already know I must face, conversations I have been avoiding, responsibilities I am not ready for, tasks that overwhelm me just thinking about them. And there are things hidden from me, surprises waiting around corners I cannot see yet. Both the expected and the unknown stir anxiety in me, but I do not want to walk to them alone. I invite you into every moment that awaits me, into the decisions I must make, into the interactions that will shape my day, into the thoughts that will run through my mind. I do not want to react out of fear anymore. I want to move out of a place anchored in you. Father, I ask you to steady my heart as the day unfolds. Let your peace touch the places where I already feel stretched. Let your calm settle over the moments when I will be tempted to rush ahead or fall apart. Let your wisdom speak in the quiet spaces where I tend to spiral into worry. Help me pause, even if only for a breath, and remember that you are near. Remind me that I am not expected to navigate everything alone, that I can lean into your presence at any hour. I want this day to be shaped by trust rather than by fear. There is something sacred about beginning with you. It slows me down. It clears the fog from my mind. It shifts my focus from what I cannot control to the one who holds all things together. And even though the challenges ahead may not change immediately, something in me changes when I surrender them to you. I feel less like I am bracing for impact and more like I am walking with someone who sees the path clearly. God, help me be mindful of you as the day moves on. Do not let this moment stay confined to the early hours. Let it follow me into every space I enter. Let it remind me to breathe, to listen, to lean, to trust. Let it teach me to pause before reacting, to look toward you before speaking, to remember your presence before assuming I am alone. I do not want this to be a morning ritual I forget by noon. I want it to become the steady rhythm of my life. And so I hold this day out before you, not as something to fear, but as something I choose to place completely in your hands. I open my palms to let go of what I cannot manage and make room for what you can. I do not ask for perfection. I ask for companionship. I do not ask for everything to go smoothly. I ask for strength to walk with grace. I do not ask for every burden to disappear. I ask for the courage to carry only what belongs to me and to release what does not. This day is yours, God. Every hour, every step, every moment. And because it is yours, I choose to enter it with a quieter heart, a gentler spirit, and a deeper trust. Let this offering be the start of something new. Let this surrender be the anchor that steadies me. Let this morning become the foundation for a day lived not out of fear, but out of faith. Father, as I continue from the place where I place this day in your hands, another truth rises quietly within me. It begins as a soft reminder, almost a whisper beneath my thoughts, but it grows stronger the longer I sit in this stillness. If I am going to walk through this day with any sense of steadiness, I need to remember who I truly am in your eyes, not who my fears say I am, not who past wounds claim I will always be, not who the world expects me to become. I need to remember the identity you have spoken over me long before I learned how to doubt myself. For so long I have carried the weight of labels that never belonged to me, words spoken in anger, judgments made by people who never knew the whole story, conclusions I drew about myself during seasons of pain. I let these things shape the way I walk into each new day. I have called myself weak when I was hurting, unworthy when I was exhausted, forgotten when I was simply afraid. But as I sit with you now, I feel these old voices losing their grip. They sound smaller here. They sound less true in the light of your presence. Lord, teach me to see myself the way you see me, not through the lens of shame, but through the lens of love, not through the shadows of past mistakes. Through the grace that has carried me to this very moment. You call me your child, yet I often walk as if I am still an orphan, trying to earn a place at a table I have already been invited to. You call me chosen, yet I move through life expecting rejection at every turn. You call me beloved, yet I keep searching for worth in places that leave me emptier than before. Help me remember that my identity is not fragile. It is not formed by circumstances. It is not rewritten by failure. It is anchored in something unshakable. Your faithfulness, your kindness, your voice that speaks with a gentleness nothing else can imitate. When I forget who I am, it is not because the truth has changed. It is because I have allowed other voices to grow louder. This morning, I ask you to quiet them. Let them fall away like dust shaken from clothing. Let them lose their power. Father, help me step into today carrying the truth instead, that I belong to you, that you delight in me even when I feel unsteady, that you hold my life with tenderness, not disappointment, that you see the good you planted within me long before it ever grows enough for me to notice. I want to live from that place today. I want to carry myself not with pride, but with the quiet assurance that I am loved beyond measure. There are moments when I still feel like I am defined by my scars, times when I see only the broken pieces of who I have been, and assume that is all I will ever be. But you see more. You see the healing that is forming beneath the surface. You see the growth taking shape in hidden places. You see the strength being built through every fragile step forward. You see the story you are writing in me, even when I only see the rough drafts. Lord, help me trust that story. Help me trust that you are not finished with me. Help me trust that I carry a worth I did not create, but one you freely placed within me. Let this truth sink deeper than my doubts. Let it shape the way I speak to myself, the way I walk into conversations, the way I respond to challenges. Let it remind me that I do not need to earn love, because I already have it. I do not need to fear rejection, because I am held by a love that never lets go. This morning, as I breathe in the quiet, I feel a gentle courage forming, not the kind that shouts or demands attention, but the kind that lets me stand a little taller inside myself, the kind that reminds me I am not defined by yesterday, the kind that whispers that I am more than the lies I believed in the dark, the kind that says I can walk into this day with confidence, not because I have everything together, but because you hold every part of me. So I rest here a little longer, letting this identity settle deep into my spirit. I am yours. I am seen. I am known. I am loved. And because of that, I can face whatever waits for me today, not as someone lost or overwhelmed, but as someone rooted in a truth that does not shift with the wind, someone carried by a grace that does not run dry, someone who can rise, even slowly, because you call me by name, Lord. As I continue from the quiet reminder of who I am in your eyes, another truth rises slowly within me. If I am truly yours, if I am truly loved, then I no longer need to hide the places inside me that still throb with old pain. The identity you give me makes it safe for me to bring forward the parts of my story I have tried to bury. And so this morning, I let myself turn toward what I have avoided for so long. Not to relive the hurt, but to finally place it in your hands. There are memories, Father, that sit heavy on my heart even after all this time. Some are sharp, sudden moments that still sting when I think of them. Others are long seasons, years where I felt unseen, unheard, or unprotected. Wounds I pretended had healed but still ache when touched. Disappointments that grew into quiet resentment. Words spoken over me that shaped the way I walk into relationships and the way I look at myself. I have carried these things like hidden stones in my chest, hoping time would soften them, but time alone has never been enough. As I sit here in the gentle stillness of this morning, I sense you inviting me to bring these wounds into the light, not to shame me, but to free me, not to reopen what is closed, but to heal what never truly did. You are not asking me to be brave in a loud way. You are asking for honesty, the kind that whispers instead of shouts. And so I begin, slowly, tenderly, naming the places that still hurt, the betrayal that left me cautious, the heartbreak that made me frightened to trust again, the losses that carved hollows inside me, the moments I still replay, wondering if I could have changed the outcome. Speaking these truths is not easy, Lord. They rise like old dust when the boxes are opened, but I feel you near, steady and calm, as if your presence itself is saying, I can bear this with you. I do not have to understand the meaning behind everything that happened. I do not need to justify what wounded me or what I regret. I only need to let you into these places that have been locked away, so I open them slowly, one by one, revealing the corners I have kept hidden even from myself. Father, when I place these wounds before you, something shifts. They no longer feel like secrets I must guard. They become burdens I can finally release. I feel the weight begin to ease, not all at once, but gently, as if your hand is lifting each piece with tender care. It comforts me to know that you do not rush this process. You do not demand that I move on before I am ready. You simply sit with me in the ache, and in doing so, the ache softens. There were moments, Lord, when I wondered where you were while I was hurting, times when the silence felt like abandonment. But now, as I breathe through these memories, I sense something different. I sense that you were closer than I realized, that you felt every ache with me, that you shielded me from wounds worse than the ones I received, that you preserved parts of my heart that could have shattered completely. I did not see it then, but I can feel it now. Your presence was not absent. It was hidden, quiet, protecting what I could not see. As these realizations settle over me, gratitude stirs again, not gratitude for the pain itself, but for the way you sustained me through it, for the resilience you planted in me without my noticing, for the strength that grew in the dark, preparing me for moments like this one, for the compassion I now carry for others who suffer. These wounds shaped me, but they did not ruin me. You made sure of that. So, Lord, I bring all of yesterday into this morning light. The sorrow, the tears, the questions, the parts of me that are still learning how to trust, how to forgive, how to release. I ask you to breathe gently over each wound, to let your presence settle into every place that still aches. I ask you to rewrite what pain tried to define. I ask you to turn these wounds into places where your healing can grow. Help me walk today with less weight than I carried yesterday. Help me rise with a heart not free of scars, but free of hiding. And as I sit in this moment, letting these truths sink into me, I feel something new forming at the edges of my spirit. A quiet hope that healing is not a distant dream, but a process already unfolding. A sense that the light entering these once locked away places is only the beginning. A belief that you are not finished with my heart, and that what you heal will one day become the strength I offer others. God, as I continue from the place where yesterday swoons were lifted into your gentle morning light, I feel the quiet after a storm settling into my spirit. The H is not gone, and I know healing is still unfolding, but something inside me has shifted. There is room now, a space that hurt once occupied, a space that now feels open, waiting for something new to fill it. And as I breathe in this early stillness, I sense what that something is. Peace, not the kind that erases all trouble, the kind that rests deeper than fear, deeper than uncertainty, deeper than anything that once held me captive. Lord, fear has lived in me for a long time. It came in forms I barely recognized until now. Sometimes it sounded like anxiety whispering, "What if?" into every quiet moment. Sometimes it sounded like doubt questioning whether I could trust you or even myself. Sometimes it sounded like a harsh voice telling me I would fall apart if I let my guard down. Fear has filled the empty spaces of my heart for so long I almost forgot they could be filled with anything else. But as you touched the wounds I carried, those spaces loosened. The grip of fear weakened. And now, in this tender silence, I long for your peace to enter those places and make them new. Father, teach me what it means to welcome peace, not as a fleeting feeling or a rare moment, but as a steady presence that shapes the way I move through the day. I know peace is not the absence of struggle. I know it does not come from everything going my way. Peace begins inside, where your voice is softer than fear and stronger than the noise of my thoughts. It begins with believing that I am safe in you, even when I cannot see what lies ahead. It begins with trusting the same hands that held my wounds can hold my worries too. I confess I have let fear lead me more times than I can count. It has influenced my choices, my relationships, my prayers, even the way I see myself. It taught me to expect disappointment, to prepare for loss, to guard my heart so tightly that nothing could reach it. But you are inviting me into something different, something truer. You are inviting me into a peace that does not depend on circumstances, a peace that comes from your nearness, a peace that settles over the soul like a calm dawn after a long night. I want that peace to become my anchor. As I sit here with you, Lord, I release the fears that still cling to me. The fear of being hurt again, the fear of losing what I love, the fear of failing, of not being enough, of not knowing what the future holds. These fears have shaped my posture toward life, making me brace for pain instead of expecting grace. But now, in the presence of your steady compassion, I let them go one by one. I place them in your hands, trusting that you will not let them define me any longer. And as fear loosens its grip, I feel your peace begin to rise like a quiet river. It flows into the cracks, the empty places, the corners where trembling once lived. It softens the pressure in my chest. It steadies my breath. It reminds me that I do not have to carry myself through this day. I can lean. I can rest. I can move forward without the constant weight of trying to control everything around me. Peace does not demand strength. It offers it. Lord, let this peace shape my thoughts as the day unfolds. When my mind starts to race, slow it. When worry tries to creep in, meet it with your calm. When I feel the pull to return to old fears, remind me of the freedom you are forming in me. Let peace become my first instinct rather than my last resort. Let it guide my words, soften my reactions, steady my decisions. Let it be the quiet strength that moves with me into every moment. I know fear will try to return. It always does. But I also know that your peace is not fragile. It does not vanish at the first sign of trouble. It is rooted in something deeper than emotion. It is rooted in your presence, in your faithfulness, in your promise to carry me through every season. So I choose, even if timidly, to trust that peace more than I trust my worry. I choose to let it fill the spaces where trembling once lived. I choose to breathe in the freedom it offers. As I rest in this moment with you, I feel a quiet courage forming again. The kind that comes not from confidence in myself, but from knowing I am held, from knowing I am guided, from knowing I am not stepping into this day alone. Peace is here, rising slowly, gently, enough for the next breath, enough for the next step. And that is enough for me this morning. God, as this peace continues to rise within me, I notice how unfamiliar it feels. Not because it is foreign, but because I have lived so long with tension that calm feels almost like a new language. My heart is learning it slowly, as if repeating its gentle syllables for the first time. And with every breath I take, I feel myself loosening from old patterns I did not even realize had shaped me. The urge to brace myself, to anticipate pain, to assume the worst has been part of me for so long that letting it go feels like stepping into a room I never allowed myself to enter. Yet here I am, standing in this new stillness, discovering that peace is not distant. It has been waiting for me. Lord, I realize now how often my fears wrote stories in my mind long before my life ever lived them out. I created endings to moments that had not yet begun. I imagined disasters where none existed. I filled empty spaces with dread because it felt safer to expect the worst than to hope for the best. But peace is teaching me a different rhythm. It invites me to live in the present instead of the imagined. It encourages me to breathe where fear once pressed on my chest. It teaches me that life does not have to be a constant rehearsal of worst-case scenarios. There is a gentleness in this lesson, one that reminds me I am not failing for having been afraid. I am healing. Fear carved deep grooves in my thinking, and peace is smoothing them slowly, carefully, with a patience that does not shame me for needing time. I feel you speaking to me softly, not with commands, but with reassurance, not telling me to be stronger, but reminding me I do not have to carry everything alone. Your peace does not come by force, It settles like a whisper, like a calm, steady breath, like a presence that lingers even when I am unsure how to receive it. Father, as I let this peace reach deeper places, I begin to notice memories fear once distorted. Situations where I assumed abandonment when you were actually protecting me. Moments I interpreted as failure when they were, in truth, redirections. Times when fear convinced me I was alone. Yet looking back, I can see how your guidance was quiet but constant. Peace shows me the same memories differently. It replaces the panic with perspective, replaces the trembling with gratitude that I survived moments I thought would break me. It teaches me to see not just the wound, but the resilience you formed through it. This growing clarity reveals something else too. Something I once resisted. Peace requires trust. Not flawless trust, not confident trust, but a willingness to lean even when I cannot see what comes next. That willingness feels small today, but it is real. It shows up in the way my shoulders ease. When I think about the hours ahead, it shows up in the way my heartbeat slows when I surrender a worry I cannot control. It shows up in the way I feel held, even before anything in my circumstances changes. Lord, let this peace become the way I meet the world when I step into conversations. Let it be the voice that steadies me when unexpected challenges rise. Let it remind me I do not face them by myself. When my old habits try to pull me back into spirals of fear, let peace interrupt, placing a gentle hand on my mind and guiding me toward truth. Help me recognize the difference between my anxious thoughts and your calming presence. Help me choose the latter even when fear feels familiar. I know there will be days when fear tries to return loudly. Days when peace feels distant. Days when my heart forgets what it is learning right now. But even then, I ask that you anchor this moment deep within me. Let it become a reminder that peace is not something I chase. It is something you give. It is something that flows from your nearness, not my effort. It is something that rises even in uncertainty, because it is rooted in the one who does not change. So I sit here a little longer, allowing this peace to settle farther into the quiet corners of my spirit. I let it fill what was emptied by fear. I let it soften what was hardened by anxiety. I let it unfold slowly, patiently, reminding me that healing is not a single moment, but a continual turning toward you. Peace is growing here, not as a sudden flood, but as a gentle river carving a new path within me. And with every breath, I feel more ready to walk into the day with a heart that is steadier, clearer, and freer than it was before. Father, as the gentle peace from the last moment continues to settle over my heart, I feel another truth rising within me. Peace has made space in me, but now that space needs something more than calm. It needs strength, not the kind that demands perfection or endless endurance, but the quiet, steady strength that comes from you alone. Strength that fills the places where my courage feels thin. Strength that rises not from pressure, but from presence. Strength that teaches me I do not have to stand tall to stand firm. Lord, I have spent years trying to be strong in ways that drained me. I pushed myself to hold everything together, to never let anyone see me falter, to carry burdens I was never meant to lift alone. I called it resilience, but much of it was fear disguised as responsibility. I thought that if I kept going without resting, I would be safe. If I stayed in control, I would not break, but all it did was make me wary, anxious, and prone to collapse in the quiet moments when the world was not looking. But this morning, in this stillness with you, I feel you inviting me into a different kind of strength, one that does not begin with effort, but with surrender, one that does not rise from my determination, but from your nearness, one that does not strain, but steadies. You are showing me that true strength is not pushing harder, it is leaning deeper. It is knowing that I am held by a love that does not shake when life does. It is finding the courage to rest in the truth that I am not alone in anything I face. Father, I offer you the places where my strength fails, the moments when fear still tugs at me, the decisions that weigh too heavily on my heart, the responsibilities that stretch me thin, the relationships that leave me unsure of myself, the emotions that feel too overwhelming to carry. These are the places that need your strength most, the places where my own efforts are not enough. I do not hide them. I do not pretend. I bring them openly, trusting that you receive weakness with tenderness, not disappointment. As I speak these truths, I feel something shift inside me again, a quiet reminder that you have always strengthened me, even in seasons when I thought I was surviving on my own. You were the calm in my chaos, the endurance that kept me from giving up, the resilience that appeared in moments when I had nothing left to offer. I can see it now in hindsight. Every time I stood when I could have fallen, every time I kept going when the weight felt too heavy, it was your strength, not mine, carrying me. Lord, let that strength rise again in me today. Let it fill my tired thoughts. Let it settle into my unsteady emotions. Let it steady my decisions, my reactions, my steps. Let it become the quiet power that moves through me, even when I feel small. Teach me to rely on it rather than resist it. Teach me to draw from it rather than from fear. Teach me to trust that you are strong within me even when I feel fragile. There are places in my life that feel too complicated for me to manage, situations that stretch far beyond my understanding, responsibilities that grow heavier with each passing day. But this morning, I do not ask for every challenge to disappear. I ask for the strength to meet them with your peace instead of my panic, your wisdom instead of my confusion, your calm instead of my overwhelm. I want to face what comes with the quiet assurance that I am not standing in my own power, but in yours. Father, let this strength be gentle. Let it move like a slow, steady tide rising over the weak places in me. Let it hold me upright when my confidence falters. Let it carry me when I do not know how to take the next step. Let it remind me that weakness is not a flaw, but an invitation into deeper dependence on you. In your hands, my limitations become openings. My uncertainty becomes space for your voice. My fatigue becomes room for your rest. As I sit with you now, I feel a quiet courage beginning to take shape. A courage not built on pride, but on trust. A courage that allows me to face the day honestly, acknowledging my limits without being ruled by them. This strength does not shout. It holds. It lifts. It steadies. And because it comes from you, it will not fail. So I rise from this moment with a heart strengthened, not by my own resolve, but by your faithful presence. Whatever waits for me today, I face it with the truth that I am carried, empowered, and upheld by the one who never grows weary. Father, as this quiet strength begins to settle deeper into me, I recognize how different it feels from the strength I once tried to build on my own. The strength I learned from the world was tense, rigid, always bracing for something to go wrong. It demanded perfection and punished weakness. But the strength you give feels nothing like that. It does not tighten my chest. It does not pressure me to prove myself. It feels steady, almost like a warm hand resting gently on my back, reminding me that I do not walk alone. I realize now that so much of my exhaustion came from carrying expectations I was never meant to bear. Expectations to never falter, never pause, never ask for help. Expectations to handle everything quietly and flawlessly, even when I was breaking. But here in your presence, I feel those expectations slowly dissolving. You are not asking me to be unshakable. You are asking me to be honest, to be open, to be willing to lean on you in the very moments I once tried to hide. Lord, show me how to recognize the strength you are forming in me. It does not announce itself loudly, and sometimes I mistake it for weakness because it moves with such gentleness. But the more I sit with you, the more I realize that gentleness is what makes it strong. It does not rush. It does not demand. It does not harden. It grows quietly, like roots beneath the surface, unseen yet essential. It is the kind of strength that allows me to bend without breaking, to feel deeply without being consumed, to stand even when circumstances shake around me. There are places in my heart, God, that have long felt fragile, places where I have been wounded, rejected, misunderstood, or stretched beyond my capacity. For years I tried to strengthen those places by shutting them down, hiding them, pretending they did not affect me. But your presence invites me to bring those fragile places to you, not to bury them further. You meet my vulnerability without judgment. You meet my uncertainty without frustration. You meet my trembling with tenderness. And as you do, I feel strength rising exactly where I once felt the weakest. Father, help me recognize that strength does not always look like boldness. Sometimes it looks like choosing to try again. Sometimes it looks like taking one small step when fear tells me to freeze. Sometimes it looks like speaking gently when I want to retreat. Sometimes it looks like asking for guidance when I would rather handle everything alone. These small acts of courage may seem quiet, but they are signs of a deeper work you are doing in me. As I breathe in this stillness, I begin to notice how strength and peace intertwine. Peace softens the fear that once held me back, and strength gives me the courage to move forward into the spaces peace creates. They meet in the center of my heart, forming something steady enough to carry me through whatever the day may bring. I do not have to feel powerful for your strength to be present. I only have to remain open to it. There is comfort in knowing that you do not rush my growth. You are not impatient with my slow progress or my hesitant steps. You see every tiny shift inside me, every quiet surrender, every moment I choose trust over fear, and you meet each one with grace. You do not demand that I leap. You simply invite me to take the next step, and then the next, knowing you are right beside me. Lord, as this strength takes root, help me use it with humility. Let it guide me without making me hardened. Let it empower me without making me self-reliant. Let it deepen my compassion for others who feel weak, reminding me that strength is not something I possess, but something you continually pour into me. Let every part of this day be shaped by the quiet confidence that rises when I trust your presence more than my own ability. And as I remain here for a moment longer, I sense that this growing strength is not simply for surviving today. It is preparing me for things ahead that I cannot yet see. It is forming a deeper resilience, a grounded steadiness, a rooted courage that will carry me through future seasons. And knowing that I do not feel afraid, I feel supported, I feel upheld, I feel strengthened in a way that comes not from striving, but from surrendering to the one who never lets me fall. Lord, as the quiet strength you have been forming in me begins to settle deeper, I notice something else rising in my heart. It is subtle, almost hidden beneath the surface, but unmistakable. I sense how often I rush ahead of myself, ahead of peace, ahead of your timing. Even when you steady me, even when you calm my fears, there is a restlessness inside me that tries to sprint forward as if the future were something I needed to outrun. This morning, you are gently inviting me to learn a new rhythm, a slower rhythm, a grounded rhythm, one that moves in step with you instead of racing beyond what my spirit can carry. Father, I realize now how deeply this pattern has shaped my life, how often I hurried into decisions before I listened, how often I reacted out of urgency rather than wisdom, how often I let anxiety push me into action simply because stillness felt too vulnerable, and beneath all of it was fear. Fear of missing something, fear of failing, fear of being caught unprepared, fear of not being enough. But you are showing me that rushing is not the same as moving forward. Rushing often leads me into places I am not ready for, places where my heart has not yet been strengthened, places where peace has not gone before me. As I sit here in this quiet moment, I feel you teaching me to slow down, not to stop completely, not to retreat from life, but to breathe and move at a pace that does not leave my soul behind, to walk instead of run, to pause instead of panic, to listen before I respond, to trust that the path you set before me will unfold, even if I am not pushing it open with my own hands. That is hard for me, Lord. Slowing down feels like surrender, and surrender feels like losing control. But maybe that is exactly what I need, to stop trying to control what was never mine to hold. God, help me learn that walking with you is safer than running on my own. Teach me to let each step be led, not forced. Let each decision be rooted in calm instead of urgency. Let each movement come from a posture of trust instead of fear. I want to live in the present without constantly trying to outrun the unknown. I want to give myself permission to be where I am, fully, without feeling pressured to leap ahead into moments that are not yet meant for me. There is a gentleness in this new rhythm you offer, a rhythm that lets my breath deepen, a rhythm that brings clarity instead of confusion, a rhythm that grounds my thoughts instead of scattering them. When I walk slowly with you, I notice things I would have missed while rushing. I notice your small reassurances. I notice the lessons hidden in quiet spaces. I notice the strength being built in subtle ways. I notice the peace that stays with me longer when I do not sprint through it. Father, I confess that part of my rushing comes from wanting answers quickly. I want to know how things will turn out. I want to see the ending of the story before I take the first step. But you are patient with my impatience. You do not scold me for wanting certainty. Instead, you invite me to trust that you hold the pieces I cannot see, that you are already in the future I fear, that nothing waiting ahead is outside your care, and that walking with you, one step at a time, is enough. So here, in this calm morning light, I choose to surrender my pace to yours. I release my need to hurry. I release the pressure to solve everything at once. I release the habit of living 3 steps ahead of my own heart. Teach me to receive each moment as it comes, instead of trying to outrun the ones that frighten me. Teach me that peace thrives where pace slows. Teach me that strength grows deeper when I do not rush past the lessons you are unfolding. Lord, let this slower rhythm shape the way I move through today, when anxiety urges me to act too quickly. Steady me when restlessness tries to pull me ahead of your timing. Anchor me when fear whispers that I must hurry to be safe. Remind me that safety is found in you, not in speed. Let each step be mindful. Let each breath be intentional. Let each moment be met with presence, not panic. And as I rest for a moment longer in this gentle morning quiet, I feel a new kind of courage forming, one rooted not in haste, but in trust. A courage that believes I do not need to sprint through life to reach what you have prepared for me. A courage that understands that every step taken with you is enough. A courage that walks, not runs, because walking keeps me close to the one who leads me. Lord, as I linger in this gentle awareness of slowing down, I notice how deeply this invitation touches places I rarely let myself see. There is a fragile part of me that believes movement equals safety, that if I keep going fast enough, the worries behind me will never catch up. I have worn hurry like a shield, convincing myself that speed could protect me from disappointment or pain, yet all it ever did was exhaust me, leaving me too tired to recognize the quiet ways you were trying to lead me. Now, as I sit in this calm morning space, I can feel the truth rising. Rushing was never my refuge. You are. I begin to see how many moments in my life I blurred through because I was too focused on what was next. I missed the small comforts, the quiet reassurances, the glimpses of beauty you slipped into my path. Because my eyes were fixed on the horizon, I hurried through conversations, through decisions, through blessings you meant for me to savor. I carried a fear that if I slowed, I would fall behind, not realizing that the only thing I was falling behind on was your pace for my soul. Father, teach me to trust that there is no race in the journey you have designed for me. I am not competing with anyone. I am not late for anything you intend to give me. Nothing meant for me will slip away because I walked too slowly. In fact, I am learning that some of the things you have prepared can only be received when my pace is gentle, when my heart is quiet enough to hear your voice without the roar of my own urgency. There is comfort in knowing that stillness is not stagnation. It is alignment. It is choosing to match my footsteps with yours instead of running ahead into places you have not called me to. It is trusting that growth happens in steady rhythms, not frantic leaps. It is believing that clarity often comes in silence, not movement. And in this slow, steady rhythm, I feel the tension inside me relax. I feel my spirit unclench. I feel the pressure to be everywhere at once begin to fade. Lord, I also realize that slowing down allows me to feel again something I often avoided. When I rushed, I numbed myself. I distracted myself from my pain, my hopes, my longings, and even my joy. I outrun my emotions because facing them felt too heavy. But you are showing me that walking slowly gives space for healing, space for reflection, space for my heart to catch up to my body. It allows me to acknowledge what lives inside me instead of burying it under motion. And as I settle into this awareness, I notice how walking with you brings balance. It keeps me from running too far ahead, but it also keeps me from getting stuck in the past. It holds me in the present, this moment, this breath, this quiet conversation with you where grace is always waiting. It reminds me that every step forward, no matter how small, is still progress. It teaches me that faith is not measured by speed, but by trust. Father, help me bring this unhurried rhythm into the moments that normally overwhelm me when responsibilities press in. Let me breathe instead of rush when choices feel heavy. Let me pause instead of panic when fear whispers that I must decide immediately. Let me remember that your timing has never been late. Slow my soul before you slow my circumstances. Calm my heart before you calm what surrounds me. Let every step forward be intentional, steady, and aligned with your hand. There is something sacred unfolding in this slower pace. I begin to feel connected to myself again, able to hear the subtle movements of my own heart, rather than drowning them in urgency. I begin to sense your guidance more clearly, not as shouts through chaos, but as gentle nudges in quiet places. I begin to experience faith, not as a frantic grasping for answers, but as a peaceful walk beside someone who already knows the way. And as I remain in this stillness, I realize that walking instead of rushing allows room for hope that grows, hope that strengthens, hope that does not collapse under the pressure of haste. Hope needs space to breathe. And now, that space is finally opening. I sit with this truth a moment longer, letting it sink deeply. I do not have to race to meet what you have prepared. I only have to walk with you, one steady step at a time, and in that step, I am safe. Father, as I continue from the place where you have been teaching me to slow my steps and release my hurried pace, I feel another truth rising to the surface, one that has lingered quietly in the background of my thoughts for years. It is the truth that there are many things in my life I simply cannot control, no matter how tightly I hold on to them or how carefully I try to plan my way through. And this morning, as I sit in the calm you have been forming in me, I sense you inviting me to finally face that truth with honesty and trust instead of fear. Lord, I have spent so much of my energy trying to manage outcomes that were never mine to shape. I have worried about people I cannot change, situations I cannot fix, futures I cannot predict, and circumstances far beyond my reach. My mind has carried battles that belong to no one but you. My heart has carried burdens that were too heavy for my hands from the beginning. And all this time, I believed that if I tried a little harder, thought a little longer, or planned a little more, I could keep everything from falling apart. But now, in this quiet morning light, I see how exhausting it has been to hold what was never meant for me. I feel the strain of carrying responsibilities that exceed my strength. I feel the unnecessary pressure of trying to protect myself from every possibility. I feel the tension of gripping the edges of my life, as if everything depended on my ability to hold it together. And I hear you, gently, patiently, asking me to release what my heart was never designed to control. Father, teach me what it means to trust you with the things cannot change. Teach me to loosen my grip on the areas of life that cause me the greatest anxiety. Teach me to surrender not because I am giving up, but because I am finally placing these things into hands far more capable than mine. I want to learn what true trust feels like, not the kind that only exists when life is predictable, but the kind that holds steady when uncertainty stretches before me. There are people, Lord, whom I love deeply but cannot guide the way I wish could. There are relationships that feel fragile, conversations I long to have but do not know how to begin, and hearts I wish I could protect from pain, even though I know their journey is in your hands, not mine. I surrender them to you now, not because I do not care, because I care enough to acknowledge that you see what I cannot see. You understand what I cannot understand. You are present with them in ways I can never be. There are circumstances, Lord, that weigh heavily on me, situations with unclear endings, needs I cannot meet on my own, paths that feel uncertain. I lay these before you too. I release my need to figure everything out. I release the fear that whispers, I will not be okay if I do not have all the answers. I release the belief that everything depends on my strength. I want to trust your timing, your provision, and your wisdom more than my desire for control. And there is my future, Lord, the one place where my mind tends to wander the most. I often worry about doors that may or may not open, seasons that may or may not change, and days that have not yet arrived. But you are already there. You are already shaping what I fear. You are already preparing what I will need. You know every detail long before I reach it. So I place my future back into your hands, knowing you hold it securely. Father, I sense a deep exhale forming in my spirit as I speak these words. A letting go, a loosening, a surrender that feels less like loss and more like relief. There is peace in admitting that I do not have to hold everything. There is freedom in acknowledging my limits. There is comfort in trusting that you are strong enough to carry what overwhelms me. And there is reassurance in knowing that you have never once failed to care for me. Teach me to return to this place whenever I feel myself grabbing for control again. Teach me to pause when panic tries to rise. Teach me to breathe when my mind begins racing toward outcomes I fear. Teach me to remember that trust is not a one-time act, but a daily posture, one that I must choose with every anxious thought, every uncertain step, every moment I feel tempted to take back what I just surrendered. Lord, let this trust change the way I move through today. Let it soften my reactions, calm my thoughts, and give me clarity where I once felt clouded. Let it keep me anchored when life presses against me. Let it remind me that I am safe in your hands. Even when I do not understand what you are doing, let it teach me to walk forward not with fear, but with quiet confidence that my life is held by someone who never loses control. As I linger in this moment, I feel a gentle steadiness forming a strength that comes not from myself, but from knowing I do not walk alone. I feel lighter, calmer, more grounded, and I know this is the beginning of a new way of living, a new way of trusting, a new way of letting you be God where I once tried to be my own protector. Father, as I linger in this realization, I begin to understand how deeply the desire for control has shaped the way I respond to life. I often confuse control with security, believing that if I hold tightly enough to every detail, I can protect myself from disappointment or danger. Yet all that gripping has done is tire my spirit and close my hands to the peace you have been trying to place there. Letting go feels frightening, but I can sense a gentler truth rising beneath that fear. Control was never my safety. You were. There is something tender in the way you bring me to this understanding, not through force, not through fear, but through quiet invitation. You do not shame me for the ways I tried to survive. You see the reasons why I became afraid of uncertainty, why I learned to plan far beyond my ability, why I held on to outcomes with clenched hands. You know the stories behind my attempts to manage what overwhelmed me. You know how disappointment shaped my caution, and how heartbreak taught me to brace for the worst. And instead of scolding me for these habits, you gently ask me to trust you with what I cannot hold. Lord, show me the difference between responsibility and control. Responsibility calls me to act wisely, to steward what is mine to tend, to make choices rooted in truth. Control, however, pushes me to carry burdens that crush my spirit and responsibilities that belong to you alone. I want to learn how to release what exceeds my reach, not as a sign of weakness, but as an act of faith. There is freedom in knowing that I am not meant to orchestrate every direction my life takes. As I sit with this truth, I notice how much my heart softens when I stop demanding certainty, when I stop forcing answers that are not ready to be revealed, when I stop replaying what-if scenarios until I am too exhausted to hear your reassurance. It is in this softness, this surrender, that I begin to feel your guidance again. The noise quiets, the fear loosens, the fog lifts in small, gentle ways. I realize that trust creates clarity not by giving me all the details, but by reminding me that I do not need to see the whole path to take the next step. Father, I also bring you the areas of my heart where control has been a form of self-protection. places where I feared letting others too close, places where I held my emotions tightly because I did not want to be hurt again, places where I questioned your timing because I thought delay meant abandonment. These spaces feel tender, but they are also the places I most need you to enter. Teach me to surrender these hidden fears, trusting that you will hold me gently, not recklessly. As this surrender deepens, I begin to see how trust allows me to rest in ways I did not know I needed. Rest from overthinking, rest from predicting outcomes, rest from carrying what belongs to you, rest from trying to anticipate every hardship before it comes. Trust is not passive. It is a quiet strength that grows when I stop fighting battles I was never meant to fight. It is the courage to release the illusion of control and lean into your loving wisdom. Lord, let this trust reshape how I speak, think, and move through today. When a moment feels uncertain, remind me that I do not face it alone. When my mind begins to spiral, steady me with the truth that you are in every detail I cannot see. When I reach for control out of habit, gently turn my heart back toward you. Teach me to walk slower, breathe deeper, and rest in the knowledge that you are already working in the places I cannot reach. And as I sit in this expanding quiet, I sense something new forming within me, a softer courage, a deeper peace, a willingness to lean instead of grip. Trust begins to feel less like a risk and more like a refuge. I do not have all the answers, but I am beginning to understand that I do not need them. You are enough. Your presence is enough. Your hands are enough for what I cannot control. And because of that, I can finally breathe. Lord, as I continue from the place where you have been teaching me to trust you with what I cannot control, another truth begins to rise gently within me. It comes quietly, almost like a soft echo from deep inside my heart. I begin to see that one of the heaviest weights I carry is not the future, nor even the present, but the expectations of yesterday, expectations I placed on myself, expectations I carried from others, expectations shaped by moments that did not unfold the way I hoped they would. These expectations cling to me like shadows, pushing me to live in a way that no longer fits who I am becoming. Father, I realize now how many of these expectations formed during seasons when I was simply trying to survive. I told myself I should be stronger, faster, wiser, further along than I am now. I created silent rules about who I needed to be, what I needed to accomplish, and how I should handle every challenge. I compared myself to standards that were never rooted in your truth but in fear, pressure, and old wounds. And even though those seasons have ended, the expectations remain, whispering that I am always behind, always lacking, always failing to meet some invisible measure. But this morning, as I sit in the quiet where you have been gently reshaping me, I sense you inviting me into a deeper freedom from these old expectations that have weighed me down far too long. You are not asking me to rise to impossible standards. You are not asking me to live according to the demands of past versions of myself. You are inviting me to let go, to breathe, to begin again without the weight of yesterday dictating who I must be today. Lord, Help me recognize the difference between growth and pressure. Growth is steady, tender, patient. Pressure demands immediate perfection. Growth allows me to learn. Pressure shames me for not knowing. Growth welcomes my slow steps. Pressure criticizes every stumble. And I know now which voice belongs to you. You do not push me harshly. You lead me gently. You do not burden me with expectations beyond my strength. Instead, you call me into spaces where my spirit can expand, heal, and rise. As I reflect on this, I begin to notice specific expectations. I have been carrying expectations to always be strong, to always know the right thing to say, to always hide my weakness, to always pretend I am fine even when I am hurting. I see how these expectations have shaped my interactions, how they have strained my relationships, how they have silenced parts of my heart that desperately needed compassion. And here, in your presence, I finally feel safe enough to let them go. Father, teach me to release these unhealthy expectations one by one. Teach me to forgive myself for not becoming the person I once thought I needed to be. Teach me to embrace who I am becoming now, someone shaped more by truth than by fear, more by grace than by pressure, more by love than by old wounds. Help me let go of the belief that I must earn worthiness or maintain an unbroken image of strength. Help me trust that you delight in who I am, not in who I pretend to be. There is a quiet relief forming deep within me as I speak these words. It feels like loosening a knot that has been in my chest for years. Feels like stepping out of a role I was never meant to play. It feels like opening a window in a room that has been closed too long. The air shifts. The weight lightens. I begin to sense that freedom is not a distant promise, but something unfolding right now in the smallest corners of my heart. Lord, let this freedom reshape how I step into today. Let it soften the way I speak to myself. Let it ease the pressure I place on my shoulders. Let it help me pause instead of criticize, breathe instead of judge, reflect instead of condemn. And when old expectations try to return, when they whisper that I must prove myself, perfect myself, or hurry myself into someone I am not, remind me that I am allowed to grow slowly. I am allowed to be human. I am allowed to be held by grace. As this truth settles deeper, I feel a sense of dignity rising where shame once lived, a sense of hope emerging where pressure once overwhelmed me, a sense of strength growing where striving once drained my spirit. Letting go is not losing. It is releasing what was never meant to define me. It is freeing space for who I truly am in you. It is stepping into a life shaped not by fear of failing expectations, but by the gentle rhythm of becoming who you are forming me to be. And as I rest in this awareness, I feel a renewed softness in my heart, a softness that feels like the beginning of healing, the beginning of self-acceptance, the beginning of living with more grace than pressure. I am learning to let go. I am learning to trust. I am learning to walk freely again. Father, as I continue from the freedom you have been awakening in me, the freedom from yesterday's expectations, I feel another layer within me beginning to loosen. It is something I rarely admit, even to myself, the difficulty I have in receiving grace. I am quick to offer grace to others, quick to understand their wounds, quick to see the reasons behind their struggles. But when it comes to my own heart, I feel a resistance rise. A voice inside insists I must earn every ounce of kindness, deserve every piece of forgiveness, prove that I am worthy before I allow myself to rest in the gentleness you freely offer. Lord, I did not realize how deeply this resistance shaped my relationship with you. I see now how often I kept myself at a distance, not because you pushed me away, but because I quietly believed I needed to fix myself before coming to you. I thought I needed to be stronger, more disciplined, more unbroken, more deserving. But all this striving only kept me circling around the edges of the grace you had already placed in front of me. Grace was never the problem. My hesitation to receive it was. As I sit here in this early light, I feel you inviting me to let go of that hesitation. You are not asking me to earn anything. You are not waiting for me to reach some invisible standard of worthiness. You are not withholding comfort or healing until I become someone better. You meet me exactly where I am tired, imperfect, learning, and full of both longing and doubt, and you offer grace not as a reward, but as a reminder of who you are. Father, show me how to receive this grace without shrinking away from it. Show me how to let it settle in the places I have tried to hide. Show me how to accept kindness without suspicion, forgiveness without shame, love without earning. Teach me to rest in your mercy instead of questioning whether I deserve it. Teach me that grace is not something I must repay, but something you pour out simply because your heart moves toward mine. I realize now that resisting grace has kept me trapped in cycles of self-pressure. I tried to perfect myself to avoid disappointing you. I tried to heal myself before coming to you. I tried to appear strong so I would not feel like a burden. But you are showing me that grace works in the very places I consider weak. Grace enters the cracks. Grace heals what I cannot. Grace carries me when I am too tired to rise on my own. And none of this frightens you. None of this makes you pull away. Lord, help me release the fear that if I accept grace, I will become complacent. That if I stop demanding so much of myself, I will fall behind. These lies have kept me in a constant state of tension, pushing myself harder than you ever asked me to. But your voice is different. You call me into rest, not restlessness. Into restoration, not pressure. Into renewal, not self-condemnation. Grace does not weaken me. Grace strengthens what striving never could. As I open my heart to this truth, I feel warmth spreading through the places that once felt guarded. There is a tenderness growing in the spaces that used to hold only judgment. I begin to sense that receiving grace is not a passive act, it is a courageous one. It means allowing myself to be loved where I feel unlovable. It means letting compassion touch wounds I still find difficult to name. It means believing that you see my humanity fully and still call me worthy of your nearness. Father, let this grace reshape how I walk through today. Let it soften my reactions when I feel inadequate. Let it quiet the harsh thoughts I aim at myself. Let it ease the guilt I carry for not being everything to everyone. Let it gently rewrite the stories in my mind that say, I am too much or not enough. And when I falter, let grace remind me that mistakes do not disqualify me from your presence, they draw me deeper into it. As this understanding settles deeper, I feel something inside me loosen in a way I did not expect. The more I allow myself to receive, the less fear I feel. The more I rest in your compassion, the more courage rises. The more I accept your grace, the more I sense that my life is expanding rather than shrinking. Grace is becoming less of an idea and more of a home, a place where I can breathe, where I am fully known, where I am fully loved, and where I no longer have to earn the right to stay. Father, as I sit with this unfolding understanding of grace, I begin to notice how deeply my heart has been shaped by the belief that love is something I must constantly maintain, manage, or protect. Somewhere along the way, I learned to expect that affection might disappear if I faltered, that kindness might diminish if I failed, that acceptance might vanish if I revealed too much of my brokenness. These fears made me shrink even from your love, even though you have never once shown me a reason to doubt your constancy. Now, in this quiet moment, I feel you gently pulling these fears to the surface, not to expose me, but to free me. Lord, help me unlearn the idea that love must be earned. Help me unlearn the patterns that taught me I must perform for worthiness. Help me unlearn the habits that made me hide the parts of myself that feel weak or wounded. I am beginning to see that grace cannot coexist with the belief that I must deserve everything I receive. Grace enters exactly where deserving ends. Grace lives where effort falls short. Grace meets me where I am most aware of my limitations. And yet, Father, receiving this grace still feels unfamiliar. It stretches me in ways I did not expect. It calls me to open my hands when I am used to holding everything tightly. It calls me to soften when I have taught myself to stay guarded. It calls me to trust what I have rarely allowed myself to experience, that unconditional love can truly be unconditional, not fragile, not temporary, not dependent on flawless behavior, but steady, patient, and unwavering. As I rest here, I realize how often I have mistaken self-criticism for humility. How often I believed that being hard on myself was the responsible thing, the mature thing, the safest thing. But you are showing me a different path. True humility, the kind that honors you, is not rooted in self-rejection. It is rooted in honesty, and honesty that allows me to see myself clearly without drowning in shame. An honesty that opens the door for grace to enter, not to excuse my imperfections, but to transform them from the inside out. Father, teach me to welcome this transformation without resisting it. Teach me to recognize the early stirrings of grace, when they appear as quiet invitations, when a moment of rest feels uncomfortable, when gentleness makes me emotional, when forgiveness feels too generous to accept. Help me understand that these moments are not signs of weakness, but signs of healing. They are places where you are touching old wounds with tenderness I once believed I did not deserve. There are parts of my story that still ache, places that still feel raw, times I acted out of fear, times I tried to carry too much on my own, times I spoke from exhaustion instead of clarity. Times I withheld kindness from myself because I thought harshness would make me better. Grace invites me to revisit these moments without condemnation. Grace invites me to see them through your eyes that acknowledge the pain, understand the reason, and still choose compassion over judgment. Lord, help me live from this compassion. Help me carry it into my thoughts, especially when old patterns try to return. When my mind whispers that I should be more, try harder, do better, or hide my flaws, let grace speak louder. Let it remind me that you are not disappointed in my humanity. Let it assure me that you are not surprised by my struggles. Let it comfort me with the truth that you knew every part of me long before I ever tried to present myself as flawless. And as this grace settles deeper, I feel my soul begin to loosen its grip on the exhausting need to be perfect. I feel a softening in my chest, as if something long held is unfolding. I feel space opening where tension once lived. I feel a quiet acceptance, one that does not excuse my flaws, but refuses to let them define me. This acceptance is gentle, steady, warm. It feels like being welcomed into a room where I belong, a room where I am not measured by performance, but held by love. Father, as I move through today, let this awareness shape the way I respond to myself. Let it help me treat my heart with the same tenderness I offer to others. Let it help me pause before I criticize, breathe before I condemn, reflect before I allow old shame to speak. Let your grace become the lens through which I see myself, a lens that tells the truth, but with love, not harshness. And as this truth continues to echo softly within me, I realize grace is not merely something you give. It is something you invite me to live inside. A place where striving quiets. A place where fear softens. A place where I can rest without apology. A place where I can grow without pressure. A place where I can finally be myself, without the weight of proving anything. Here, in this unfolding grace, I feel a deeper freedom beginning to take root. Freedom, not from responsibility, but from self-punishment. Not from growth, but from perfectionism. Freedom to breathe, to begin again, and to live held rather than exhausted. Lord, as I continue from the grace you helped me begin receiving, I feel another truth rising gently within me, one I have tried to outrun many times. Healing has its own pace. It does not move according to my expectations, my impatience, or my desire to feel whole instantly. Healing unfolds slowly, quietly, layer by layer, often beginning in places I did not realize were still wounded. And this morning, I sense you inviting me to stop demanding speed from my heart and instead allow it the tenderness of time. Father, I realize now how often I pressured myself to be okay before I truly was. I pushed myself to move on quickly from pain, to forget disappointments, to silence grief, to pretend old hurts were irrelevant simply because I did not want to feel them anymore. But unacknowledged wounds do not disappear, they wait. They settle under the surface, shaping my reactions, my fears, my insecurities, and even my relationships. And now, as your grace softens my spirit, I finally feel safe enough to face these deeper places without fear of being overwhelmed. Show me, Lord, how to let healing come naturally instead of forcing it. Teach me that healing is not a race I must win, but a journey I must honor. Help me understand that progress sometimes looks like stillness, sometimes like tears, sometimes like questions, and sometimes like unexpected moments of relief. Healing is not linear, and you are not disappointed by the days when I feel like I am moving backward. You see the hidden shifts, the small openings, the subtle changes that I often ignore. As I sit here, I feel you inviting me to slow down and listen to the unspoken parts of my heart. There are places inside me that still ache from words that were never said, apologies that never came, hope that faded, trust that was broken, and moments where I felt unseen or unheard. These wounds carried quiet stories I have avoided because they felt too heavy to open alone. But I am not alone now. You are here, and your presence makes space for honesty, where I once felt only fear. Father, help me release the idea that healing means forgetting what happened. Healing does not erase the past. It transforms the way it lives within me. It takes the sting out of old memories. It softens the grip of old fears. It restores places where pain once dictated my choices. It allows me to breathe where I once held my breath. Healing rewrites my story not by changing what occurred, but by changing what I believe about myself because of it. And Lord, teach me to be gentle with myself during this process. When emotions rise unexpectedly, let me welcome them rather than judge them. When old insecurities appear, remind me that they are signals, not failures. When I feel fragile, help me understand that fragility is not weakness. It is the place where you do some of your most tender work. When I struggle to trust again, let me take small steps without shaming my own caution. When I am tempted to rush, let your peace slow me with kindness. There is something freeing about realizing that healing is not something I must force. It is something I allow. It grows in openness, not pressure. It deepens when I stop pretending and start receiving the care you offer. I feel this truth settling in my chest like a gentle warmth, easing the tightness that once felt permanent. I feel you showing me that every part of me, every bruise, every scar, every fragile corner is welcomed into this healing space. Father, let this healing reshape how I move through today. Let it soften my responses where I once felt defensive. Let it strengthen my compassion for others who are also healing in their own quiet ways. Let it give me patience when I face parts of my heart that still need time. Let it open my eyes to the small victories. I often overlook a calmer reaction, a lighter thought, a moment of honesty, a breath that feels deeper than before. And as I rest in this awareness, I begin to feel hope rising, not the fragile hope that fears disappointment, but a steady, grounded hope that grows from knowing I am being restored from the inside out. Healing may take time, but I am not discouraged. I am not alone. I am being gently rebuilt, piece by piece, by the one who understands every wound and holds every tear. In this quiet moment, I feel a tender courage taking shape, not the courage to rush ahead, but the courage to remain present, to feel, to trust the process you are guiding. A courage that believes healing is happening even when I cannot see it clearly. A courage that lets me lean into you, moment by moment, learning to become whole again at the pace my heart can bear. Lord, as I continue from the gentle healing you have begun stirring in the deepest places of my heart, I feel you leading me into another quiet truth. Healing is not only about tending to the wounds of yesterday. It is also about trusting the transformation that is happening inside me right now, quietly, subtly, and often imperceptibly. There is a work unfolding within my spirit that I cannot always feel, name, or measure, and yet I sense its presence like a soft rhythm beneath everything I do. And this morning, you invite me to rest in the assurance that just because I cannot see progress does not mean you are not shaping me. Father, I confess that I often doubt what I cannot feel when I do not sense dramatic change. I assume nothing is happening when my emotions quiet down. I worry that I am stuck when growth comes slowly. I fear that I have failed, but you remind me that transformation is not always loud. It is not always marked by sudden clarity or overwhelming emotion. Sometimes it looks like a slightly softer thought. Sometimes it sounds like a quieter reaction. Sometimes it feels like a small moment of peace in a place that once felt chaotic. Show me, Lord, how to trust this quiet work. Teach me to honor the subtle shifts that do not announce themselves. Teach me to recognize the strength growing in silence, the courage rising in restraint, the wisdom forming in reflection. Help me see that the absence of noise is not the absence of progress. It is often the sign that my soul is settling into something deeper, steadier, and more grounded than I have ever known. As I rest here, I begin to notice all small signs of change, moments I would have overlooked if I had not slowed down. The way I breathe more deeply when fear tries to return. The way I pause before letting anxiety take over. The way my heart softens instead of hardening when old memories surface. These moments reveal that something within me is transforming at a pace my mind cannot measure, but my spirit can sense. Lord, remind me that seeds do their deepest work underground, that growth often happens in hidden places, long before it appears in visible form, that patience is not passivity, but participation in a process I cannot rush. Just as a tree gains strength long before it grows upward, I am learning that my roots are being strengthened in ways that will one day support everything you are leading me into. Father, teach me to release the need to evaluate myself constantly. I do not need to dissect every emotion, track every change, or measure every step. You see the whole picture. You understand the full process. You know how every moment fits into the quiet unfolding of my healing. Let me trust that you are doing what I cannot yet see, shaping what I cannot yet feel, and preparing what I cannot yet imagine. There is comfort in knowing that transformation does not depend on my awareness of it. You work faithfully even when I am uncertain. You move gently even when I feel still. You strengthen me even when I feel fragile. You guide me even when I doubt my direction. And you remind me that the quietest seasons often carry the most profound growth. Lord, help me lean into this quiet work throughout my day. Let me embrace stillness without feeling unproductive. Let me welcome moments of calm without fearing they mean I am not moving forward. Let me appreciate the gentle ways you are reshaping my thoughts, my responses, my habits, and my hopes. Let me find peace in knowing that not all growth is visible, it is felt slowly, lived gradually, and revealed naturally in time. As I sit here a little longer, I feel a sense of reassurance spreading through me, soft, warm, steady. I realize that I do not have to chase transformation. I simply need to remain open, attentive, and willing to let you continue your quiet work within me. I begin to trust that what is hidden is not absent. What is silent is not inactive. What is slow is not stagnant. And as this truth settles deeper into my heart, I feel a quiet confidence forming, the kind that does not shout but steadies me from within. A confidence that says I am being shaped. Even now, I am being renewed. Even now, I am being strengthened. Even now, not through force, but through the quiet, faithful work of your presence moving through every layer of my being. Lord, as I continue from the quiet confidence you have been forming within me, another familiar truth rises gently to the surface. Old fears do not disappear simply because I am growing. They may return in moments of exhaustion, uncertainty, or unexpected reminders from the past. They may whisper doubts, stir old insecurities, or try to pull me back into patterns you have already begun freeing me from. And this morning, I sense you showing me that healing is not the absence of fear, but the decision to choose peace even when fear tries to speak. Father, I admit that when these old fears return, part of me still feels discouraged. I begin to wonder if I have failed, if I am regressing, if the progress I have made was only temporary. But you remind me that growth is not erased by the presence of old emotions. A familiar fear resurfacing does not mean I am starting over. It simply means another layer of healing is ready to unfold. You are not disappointed by my fear. You meet me there, steadying me with the same tenderness you offer from the beginning. Teach me, Lord, to recognize fear without giving it authority. Let me see it as a signal, not a sentence. When my heart starts to race or my mind begins to imagine worst-case scenarios, help me pause instead of spiraling. Help me breathe instead of bracing. Help me remember that I am no longer navigating these moments alone. You are here, present in every shaky breath, every rising worry, every unsteady thought. And because you are here, I can choose peace even when fear feels familiar. Father, I want to understand that courage is not the absence of anxiety, is the willingness to move gently forward, even when anxiety whispers loudly. Courage is choosing to trust you more than the stories fear tries to tell. Courage is remembering that I am safe with you, even in the places that once made me feel small. Courage is allowing peace to hold me, not because circumstances are perfect, but because you are present. As I rest here, I begin to notice how fear often returns in subtle ways. Sometimes it shows up as hesitation when I want to hope for something new. Sometimes it appears as doubt when I start to believe I am healing. Sometimes it emerges as caution when past wounds are touched by new experiences. But you are teaching me that none of these moments are setbacks, they are opportunities for peace to take deeper root in my spirit. Lord, show me how to welcome peace as a practice, not a moment. Let it be the way I breathe, the way I think, the way I respond to myself. Teach me to return to peace again and again, even when my emotions feel unsettled. Teach me to choose peace not because I feel strong, but because you are strong. Not because I have everything under control, but because I am held by the one who does. There are old fears I have carried for years, fears of being alone, of losing what I love, of being misunderstood, of not being enough. They shaped parts of me I did not know how to heal. But now, with each quiet moment I spend in your presence, I feel these fears loosening their grip, not all at once. Not dramatically, but little by little, like threads gently unwinding. And each time a fear resurfaces, you give me the chance to meet it with a peace that grows deeper than the fear itself. Father, help me respond differently when fear comes. Instead of running from it or judging myself, let me turn to you with honesty. Let me speak my worries instead of hiding them. Let me lean into your reassurance instead of trying to soothe myself alone. Let me remember that peace is not something I must manufacture. Peace is something I receive from the one whose presence calms storms with a single word. As this truth settles, I begin to feel a shift inside me. A softness. A steadiness. A reminder that you are not asking me to be fearless. You are asking me to stay close. You are inviting me to let peace become the voice that guides me instead of fear. You are teaching me that emotional waves do not determine my direction. Your hand on my life does. Lord, let this peace carry me through today. Let it steady my thoughts before fear gathers momentum. Let it soften my heart where anxiety used to harden it. Let it remind me that old fears returning is not a sign of failure. It is a sign that you are healing me layer by layer, teaching me to trust you in deeper ways than before. And with each layer, I grow steadier, braver, and more anchored in your love. As I linger in this moment, I feel peace resting gently over the places fear once lived. Not as a force, but as a quiet presence. Not as a sudden shift, but as a slow and steady warmth. And I hear the truth echo softly in my spirit. I am not going backward. I am becoming new. Lord, as I sit with this awareness of old fears resurfacing, I begin to see more clearly how these fears have shaped my inner world over the years. They often return the moment I begin to experience new hope, as if they are trying to convince me that good things are fragile, that peace cannot last, that healing is too delicate to trust. For so long, I believed these fears were warnings. But now, in the softness of your presence, I am learning that they are reminders, remnants of old seasons, not predictions of my future. Father, help me separate who I once was from who I am becoming. There were times I reacted out of survival, times I braced myself for disappointment because I had been hurt before, times I expected the worst simply because I did not know how to imagine anything better. Those fears grew roots in me during moments when I did not yet understand your protection. But I am not in those seasons anymore. You are teaching me new rhythms, new patterns, new ways of responding that are not built on fear, but on trust. And yet, I can feel how deeply those old patterns linger. Sometimes they show up disguised as caution, sometimes as overthinking, sometimes as tension in my chest before I even know why. I am afraid. They are subtle, woven into my emotions, and they rise quietly when life stretches me into unfamiliar places. But you meet me in those moments, not with frustration, but with patience. You do not expect me to unlearn years of fear overnight. You lead me gently, teaching my heart how to choose peace again and again, until peace becomes more familiar than fear. Lord, teach me to welcome these moments as opportunities instead of failures. When fear resurfaces, help me ask what it is trying to protect, what memory it echoes, what story it is repeating. Remind me that fear often points to the places where I still need comfort, still need reassurance, still need healing. Let me bring these places to you without embarrassment, without self-criticism, without believing I should have outgrown them by now. There is a tenderness in knowing that you do not rush my emotional growth. You sit with me in the moments I feel small. You steady me when I feel exposed. You strengthen me slowly, as if you understand every nuance of my heart, its hesitations, its hopes, its longings, and its wounds. And in that understanding, you offer a peace that feels personal, tailored to the exact place where fear tries to rise. Father, help me internalize this truth. Peace is not a single moment I experience. It is a habit I learn, a posture I return to, a decision I make gently, breath by breath. It is choosing to release the outcome instead of gripping it. It is choosing to slow my thoughts instead of letting them spiral. It is choosing to lean into your presence instead of the noise of my worries. And with each choice, I am rewriting the pathways my fear once traveled so easily. Sometimes, Lord, fear returns because I am stepping into new territory, new hopes, new risks, new desires I care about deeply. Fear tries to convince me that caring is dangerous, that hope is reckless, that vulnerability is unsafe. But you are teaching me that caring is human, that hope is holy, that vulnerability is where intimacy with you grows deeper. Let me not shy away from the places where my heart stretches. Let me trust that you will meet me in each new place with the peace I need. As I sit here longer, I begin to notice something subtle. The fear that once felt consuming now feels smaller, quieter, less certain of its authority. Not because it vanished, because your peace has grown stronger within me. Your presence gives context to my fear. Your reassurance softens its edges. Your steady love reminds me that fear is no longer the voice that leads. I can acknowledge its presence without obeying its direction. Lord, let this shift carry into the moments ahead. When fear whispers, let peace respond first. When anxiety stirs, let trust lean forward. When old patterns try to reappear, let wisdom stand taller. Let me move through today with a spirit that is not reactive, but rooted in the truth that I am held, guided, and strengthened by you even in the places where fear still trembles. And as this thought settles, I feel something new emerging, a gentler resilience, a softer bravery. Not the kind that tries to overpower fear, but the kind that stands beside it and calmly says, "You are not in control anymore." A bravery shaped by peace, not pressure. A bravery born from your presence, steady and unfailing. I realize now that choosing peace is not a one-time act. It is the quiet revolution happening inside me, day by day, moment by moment, breath by breath, and I am learning to welcome it. Lord, as I continue from the peace you have been teaching me to choose when old fears return, another truth begins to rise quietly within me, one that touches a deeper part of my heart. I realize how difficult it has been for me to truly rest, not simply to pause, not simply to slow down, but to rest in a way that allows my whole being, mind, body, and spirit to settle without guilt. Rest has always felt like something I needed to earn, something I needed to justify, something reserved only for moments when everything was complete and every burden resolved. But this morning, you are showing me that real rest is not a luxury. It is a spiritual necessity. Father, I confess how often I have pushed myself beyond what I was capable of, believing that rest meant falling behind or being irresponsible. Even in still moments, my mind raced with concerns about unfinished tasks, lingering worries, and imagined expectations. I felt uneasy whenever I tried to slow down, as though pausing would cause everything around me to unravel. I carried the belief that I must always be productive, always be strong, always be available, always be in motion. But you are gently reminding me that constant movement does not bring peace, only your presence does. Lord, teach me what it means to rest without apologizing for it. Show me how to honor the rhythms you created for my soul. Help me find relief in quiet moments instead of discomfort. Let me see rest not as a retreat from responsibility, but as a return to you. You did not design me to live in perpetual urgency. You did not create my heart to operate in nonstop vigilance. You invite me in every season, in every emotion, to come to you, to exhale, to lay down my burdens, and to be renewed. As I sit here in this soft morning stillness, I begin to understand that rest is more than a physical pause. It is spiritual surrender. It is letting go of the belief that my worth is attached to performance. It is releasing the idea that I must prove something to deserve gentleness. It is accepting the truth that you do not measure me by my output. You delight in me simply being with you. And in this widening awareness, I feel a quiet shift inside me, a loosening of the internal pressure I have carried for so long. Father, help me recognize the subtle ways I resist rest, the way I fill silence because I am afraid of what I might feel, the way I stay busy to avoid confronting deeper emotions, the way I cling to responsibilities because they make me feel needed, the way I judge myself for wanting to pause, even when I am exhausted. These patterns have kept me distant from the healing you long to give. Teach me to gently release each one, trusting that rest is not something to fear, but something to welcome with open hands. Lord, remind me that even Jesus rested. He withdrew to quiet places. He stepped away from crowds. He allowed his spirit to be refreshed in stillness before stepping back into the demands around him. If rest was necessary for him, it is certainly necessary for me. Help me reflect his rhythms instead of the restless rhythms I have learned from the world. Let me learn to honor my limitations, not resent them. Let me learn to pause without feeling unworthy. Let me learn to breathe deeply without worrying about who expects something from me. As I think of the responsibilities in front of me, I realize that rest does not make me less capable. It helps me become more aligned. When I slow down, I hear your guidance more clearly. When I pause, I see solutions I missed while rushing. When I rest, my heart settles enough to feel your direction rather than my fear. Rest does not hinder my purpose. It strengthens it. It anchors me in you before I take another step into the day. Father, let this rest shape how I move forward. When I feel overwhelmed, remind me that stepping away for a moment is not failure, it is wisdom. When I feel guilty for needing time to breathe, replace that guilt with grace. When I worry about disappointing others by slowing down, remind me that obedience to you is more important than meeting every expectation placed upon me. And when I forget to rest, gently call me back, patiently, without condemnation. As I linger in this calm awareness, I feel rest settling into my spirit like a soft blanket, warm, steady, comforting. It reminds me that I am held. It reminds me that I am not alone in carrying what feels heavy. It reminds me that you never asked me to run without pause, give without receiving, or pour without being filled. You simply ask me to come, to be still, to let you restore me. In this quiet place, I finally feel the freedom to stop striving, the freedom to slow down, the freedom to be human, covered by grace and supported by a love that does not diminish when I rest. Here, I am learning to breathe again. Here, I am learning to trust that rest is holy. And here, in your presence, I begin to understand that rest is not the opposite of progress, is the foundation of it. Lord, as I continue from the rest you have been teaching me to embrace without guilt, I begin to sense something unexpected stirring gently within me, something I have not allowed myself to feel fully for a long time. It is joy, not loud, overwhelming joy, but a small, quiet spark rising from a place I once believed was too wounded to ever feel light again. And this morning, I feel you inviting me to make room for it, to welcome its return, and to trust that joy is not fragile or dangerous, but a gift meant to strengthen my spirit. Father, I realize how long I have kept joy at arm's length. Every time something good appeared, fear stepped in quickly, whispering that it would not last, that I should not let my guard down, that hope was a risk I could not afford. Somewhere along the way, I began to equate joy with vulnerability, believing that feeling too deeply would only lead to disappointment. So I trained myself to stay cautious, even in moments meant to bring gladness. I dimmed my own light to protect a heart that was still learning how to trust. But here, in this quiet moment with you, I sense you showing me that joy is not something I must fear. Joy is not a trap. Joy is not a setup for heartbreak. Joy is evidence of healing. It is a sign that my spirit is softening, opening, and awakening again. It is a sign that you are restoring what sorrow once dimmed. Joy does not replace the truth of pain, it rises alongside it, reminding me that I am allowed to feel more than sorrow, more than worry, more than weariness. Lord, help me welcome joy without suspicion. Help me let it enter gently, without questioning whether I have earned it or whether it will disappear. Remind me that joy is not something I must guard, it is something I must receive. It is not the opposite of seriousness. It is a companion to healing. It moves softly, teaching me that my heart has room, not only for grief that has been processed, but for life that is being renewed. As I sit in this quiet light, I begin to notice small moments where joy has already been returning, moments I overlooked because I did not trust them. The softness I felt when I rested, the warmth that spread through me when I accepted grace, the peace that settled when I released old fears. These were early sparks of joy, flickers of something new growing in places once numb. Joy is not always laughter or celebration. Sometimes it is simply the absence of heaviness. Sometimes it is the quiet awareness that I am being restored. Father, teach me to nurture this returning joy. Let it grow slowly, gently, at its own pace. Let it rise naturally without forcing it. Let it become a steady rhythm rather than a fleeting moment. Let it strengthen my resilience and soften my edges. And when fear tries to convince me that joy is unsafe, whisper truth into those fearful places. Remind me that you do not tease me with goodness, you complete it. You do not offer moments of joy only to take them away. You weave them into the fabric of who I am becoming. There is a tenderness in knowing that joy can exist even before everything in my life is resolved. I do not need perfect circumstances to feel gratitude. I do not need clarity in every area to feel lightness. I do not need every wound to be closed before I allow hope to return. Joy is not a conclusion. It is a companion on the process of healing. It is evidence that you are renewing me from the inside out. Lord, let this joy shape how I move through today. Let it help me notice the beauty around me, the warmth of the morning light, the breath I inhale, the gentle clarity in my thoughts. Let it teach me to smile without overthinking it, to hope without rehearsing disappointment, to breathe without bracing. Let joy remind me that I am allowed to feel whole even while I am still healing. As I remain in this moment, I feel joy blooming quietly within me, not in a dramatic burst, but in a way that feels steady and safe. It spreads through the places where sorrow once lingered, filling them with a softness I did not know I could feel again. And I realize that this joy is not fragile. It is rooted in you. It is not temporary. It is part of the new life you are forming within me. It is not something I must protect. It is something that protects me, reminding me that healing is producing something beautiful in me, something I once believed was lost. Lord, as I rest in the gentle blooming of this returning joy, I begin to see how carefully you have been preparing my heart for it. Joy does not enter abruptly. It arrives like dawn, quiet, patient, slowly brightening what once felt dim. I realize now that you have been softening me through every lesson before this one, loosening the tight places within me so joy would have room to settle without disturbing old wounds. You never rush joy into my spirit. You grow it tenderly in the soil softened by healing. Father, help me recognize the small ways joy is already weaving itself into my everyday life. There are moments, fleeting but real, where something inside me lifts. When I feel a spark of gratitude without forcing it. When a memory no longer hurts the way it once did. When my thoughts feel lighter than the day before. when I catch myself breathing more deeply, not because I am trying to calm anxiety, but because my spirit feels less weighed down. These are not coincidences. They are signs that joy is taking root. And yet, Lord, I still notice a subtle hesitation inside me, a quiet instinct to pull back just as joy begins to form. It is the part of me that remembers disappointment too clearly, the part that fears joy might disappear if I hold it too closely. That part of me still braces for loss, still expects pain to follow anything good. I see now that this instinct was shaped by seasons, where I learned prepare for heartbreak in order to protect myself. But you are asking me to release that pattern, to trust that joy is not something I must guard against, but something I can gently lean into. Teach me, Lord, how to stay open even when joy feels unfamiliar. Let me learn to rest in it without waiting for it to fade. Let me allow myself to feel lightness without wondering if it is too fragile. Let me experience hope without rehearsing how it might break. Show me how to embrace goodness without flinching, believing that you do not give joy only to take it away, but to strengthen me, anchor me, and remind me of the beauty you are restoring within me. Father, I realize that joy does not erase all traces of pain. Instead, it softens them. It comes alongside the places that once felt heavy and lifts them gently, without dismissing their history. Joy does not demand that I forget what hurt. It reminds me that I can feel more than hurt. It reminds me that I am more alive than the ache I carried. It reminds me that you are leading me into a life where sorrow is not the final chapter. As I breathe in this growing awareness, I sense how joy also teaches me courage. Courage to imagine possibilities again. Courage to step into new experiences without expecting the worst. Courage to let myself care about things deeply without fearing how much they mean to me. Joy teaches my heart how to hope again, not recklessly, but confidently, knowing you stand with me in every unfolding moment. Lord, there are parts of my story where I once believed joy would never return, places where grief felt too heavy or too permanent, moments where it seemed safer to numb myself than to open the door to light. But you have been gently turning those places toward the sun, showing me that nothing in my heart is too barren for you to bring life to again. You breathe hope into the quietest corners. You restore what seemed beyond restoration. You whisper promise into the spaces where silence once held me captive. Father, let this returning joy shape the way I move through today. Let it open my eyes to beauty I once overlooked. Let it renew the way I speak to myself, replacing harshness with gentleness. Let it guide the way I carry my responsibilities, not with heaviness, but with a renewed sense of purpose. Let joy be woven softly into my thoughts, showing me that lightness is not irresponsible, it is holy. And when fear rises again, as it sometimes will, remind me that joy is not fragile in your hands. Remind me that I am allowed to feel gladness even while still healing. Remind me that joy is not a sign that everything is perfect. It is a sign that you are present. Let joy be a quiet strength beneath everything I face, a strength rooted not in circumstance, but in you. As I sit with this truth a moment longer, I feel something profound. Joy is no longer a distant visitor, it is becoming a resident. Its presence is gentle, steady, warming places that once felt cold. And I realize, with a soft exhale, that joy is not returning to test me. It is returning to stay. Lord, as I continue from the gentle joy, have been teaching me to welcome without fear. A deeper reflection emerges in my heart, one I have quietly avoided for a long time. With every step forward, every moment of peace, every spark of joy, I begin to feel a new kind of fear rise inside me. It is not fear of the past anymore, nor fear of who I once was. It is fear of the future, fear of losing the very healing you are forming within me. Fear that what feels steady now might slip away. Fear that growth might not last. Fear that I am somehow too fragile to hold on to the goodness you are restoring. Father, I bring this fear to you with honesty. I confess that even when you bless me with peace, something inside me worries that I might break it. Even when you help me heal, part of me wonders if one unexpected moment could undo everything. Even when joy begins to rise, there is a quiet tension believing it could fall again. But here, in your presence, I feel you whispering something different. You remind me that growth rooted in you is not fragile. Healing you begin is not easily undone. Joy you plant does not disappear at the first sign of difficulty. What you build within me has endurance. Lord, teach me to trust the future, not because I know its details, but because I know your character. Teach me to carry this healing with open hands instead of clenched ones. Teach me to believe that nothing you restore in me can be lost without your allowing it, and you never allow loss without the promise of deeper restoration. Help me understand that my healing is not a delicate mood, it is a foundation you are laying, stone by stone, layer by layer, in the quiet places of my soul. Father, I realize now that fear of the future often comes from believing I must maintain everything by my own strength, that I must guard every piece of healing, protect every spark of joy, and preserve every moment of peace as if it could be taken away without warning. But you remind me that my healing does not depend on my grip, it depends on your hands. You are the one who steadies me. You are the one who strengthens me. You are the one who carries me when I feel unsteady. Nothing in my journey depends solely on me. Help me, Lord. Release the fear that the future holds dangers I cannot withstand. Remind me that fear is not a prophecy. It is merely the echo of old patterns trying to predict what they no longer have authority over. I am not who I once were. I am not entering the future alone. And I am not stepping into unknown places without your presence going before me. Let this truth settle deeply into my heart. The same God who healed me yesterday will sustain me tomorrow. Father, show me how to walk into the future with steadiness instead of tension. Teach me to trust that healing can continue even in difficult seasons. Teach me to believe that joy can grow even in uncertainty. Teach me to understand that peace is not the absence of challenge, it is the presence of your spirit within me. And if challenges come, I will not be abandoned to face them without you. As I sit here in this quiet morning light, I begin to sense how deeply you desire to free me from the fear of losing the good things you are cultivating. You do not give gifts only to take them back. You do not fill my heart with new life only to leave me empty. You are faithful in every season, not just the gentle ones. You remain steady even when my emotions shift. You remain present even when my circumstances change. You remain God even when I feel human and fragile. Lord, let this truth sink into every corner of my spirit. What you begin in me is meant to grow, not vanish. Healing is not a moment, it is a journey. Joy is not temporary, it is transformative. Peace is not thin, it is anchored in you. Teach me to walk with expectation, not hesitation. Teach me to wake each morning with openness, not fear. Teach me to trust that I am capable of holding the goodness you give, because you are the one who sustains it within me. And as I linger in this moment, I feel something shift within me, a quiet courage rising, not a loud, forceful courage, but a gentle one. A courage that trusts I will not return to who I once were. A courage that believes I am being carried into a future shaped by your steady hand. A courage that loosens fierce grip and allows hope to breathe more freely within me. Father, thank you for reminding me that I am not walking into uncertainty alone. The future may hold unknown paths, but you walk each one beside me, and with that truth resting in my spirit, I can trust what comes next. Lord, as I continue from the place where you have been teaching me to trust the future without fearing the loss of what you have given me, another quiet realization rises within my heart. I see how easily my mind drifts into the realm of what-ifs. Not just fears of the future, but imagined scenarios. Outcomes that may never come. Worries built from shadows rather than truth. My mind moves ahead faster than my spirit can follow, trying to anticipate everything before it arrives. And today, in this gentle morning stillness, you are inviting me to return to the present, to the only place where peace truly lives. Father, I confess how often I have allowed anxiety to carry me into moments that are not mine yet. My thoughts jump to what could go wrong, what I might lose, what challenges may appear, even in peaceful seasons. I sometimes scan the horizon for possible storms. I try to protect myself by thinking ahead, but all it ever does is steal the calm you are giving me right now. I see now that living in what-ifs only exhausts my spirit, dims my joy, and keeps me from receiving the grace you are pouring into this very moment. Lord, teach me to remain present. Teach me to rest in the here and now instead of leaping in tomorrow's possibilities. Help me see the beauty in this moment without letting imagined fears distort it. This present breath, this present light, this present peace, these are gifts. Help me not trade them for worries about moments that have not yet unfolded. I realize now that so much of my anxiety comes from trying to control outcomes I cannot influence. What if I fail? What if I am hurt again? What if something goes wrong? These questions do not prepare me, they drain me. They make me relive pain that has not happened. They keep me from noticing the quiet work you are doing in my heart right now. They pull me away from the unfolding healing, joy, and rest you are giving me in this moment. Father, help me anchor my mind in truth rather than fear. Your presence is here, not in imaginary futures. Your comfort is here, not in hypothetical struggles. Your guidance is here, not in the versions of reality I create in my mind. Show me how to draw my thoughts back gently whenever they wander into fear-filled possibilities. Teach me to breathe, to pause, to open my hands, to return to the nearness of your presence. As I linger in this awareness, I begin to notice how much peace grows when I stay grounded in the present. Worries lose their grip. Tension loosens. My heart softens. I feel more connected to myself, more aware of your voice, more attuned to what is true rather than what is imagined. You are not calling me to prepare for fear. You are calling me to trust you in each moment as it arrives. Lord, I also see that staying present allows me to recognize the blessings I often overlook. The quiet hope growing in me, the small shifts in my thoughts, the moments where courage appears unexpectedly, the gentleness spreading through my emotions. These signs of growth are easy to miss when my focus is fixed on tomorrow. But when I stay with you here, in the present, I see that I am becoming someone new slowly, steadily, beautifully. Father, teach me how to live moment by moment. Help me choose trust over projection. Help me welcome today without borrowing from tomorrow's fears. Help me listen to your voice instead of the noise of imagined outcomes. And when my mind begins to wander into places filled with uncertainty, gently draw me back with truth. I am not there yet, and you are already present there anyway. Lord, let this decision to stay present shape my day. Let it guide how I speak, how I breathe, how I respond. Let it free me from the weight of imagined burdens. Let it open my heart to gratitude instead of anxiety. Let it help me notice the grace you place in front of me, grace I would miss if I lived only in possibilities. As I rest in this moment, I feel a quiet clarity forming deep within me. Life does not happen in the what-ifs. Healing does not happen in imagined futures. Peace does not happen in fear of what could come. Life, healing, and peace happen here in this breath, in this stillness, in this gentle place with you, and in this present moment. Lord, I am safe. Lord, as I continue from the place where you have been teaching me to stay present instead of wandering into anxious what-ifs, I feel another quiet truth rising, one that I have avoided for a long time. It is the truth that I struggle to trust myself, not because I doubt your presence, but because I remember the times I made decisions from fear instead of wisdom, the moments I acted from wounds instead of clarity, the seasons where I felt lost, unsure, overwhelmed. Those memories linger, making me question whether I can rely on my own discernment. And yet this morning, I sense you inviting me gently into a new way of seeing myself through your eyes, not the eyes of my past. Father, I confess that part of me still fears making mistakes. I fear choosing wrongly, stepping into something unwise, or misinterpreting your guidance. I forget that growth has changed me. I forget that healing has softened my reactions and deepened my awareness. I forget that I am no longer the person who once made choices from a place of exhaustion or confusion. But you remember, you see the ways I have grown, even when I overlook them. You see the steadiness forming, even when I doubt it. Teach me, Lord, how to trust myself again, not independently from you, but in partnership with you. Help me understand that trusting myself is not arrogance. It is acknowledging that you are shaping my instincts, refining my thoughts, and renewing my heart When I second-guess every decision, I am not practicing humility, I am practicing fear. And you are calling me out of fear. You are teaching me to walk with confidence rooted in your presence rather than my performance. Father, help me see that the wisdom I am learning is not accidental. It is the result of every moment we have walked through together, every tear, every surrender, every moment of clarity, every step of healing. You have been forming something new within me, something capable of choosing truth, choosing peace, choosing love, choosing what leads to life. Let me honor that growth instead of minimizing it. As I sit in this quiet moment, I begin to understand that trusting myself again is part of healing. It is believing that I am not defined by old mistakes. It is acknowledging that I am learning. It is accepting that I can make thoughtful, intentional, grounded decisions not because I am flawless, but because I am guided. Your Spirit does not leave me alone with my choices. You walk with me, nudging me, whispering peace when I am aligned with you, unsettling my spirit when I wander from your path. This is not abandonment, it is companionship, and it gives me courage. Lord, show me the signs that you are guiding me, the calm that settles when something is right, the tension that warns me when something is wrong, the clarity that gently emerges when I slow down enough to listen, the discomfort that tells me when I am stepping outside what aligns with truth. Teach me to recognize these signals not with fear, but with gratitude. They are evidence of your nearness. Help me also release the harsh inner critic that questions everything I do. That voice often sounds like caution, but it is rooted in old shame, not your wisdom. Replace that voice with compassion, with patience, with clarity, with truth. Teach me to speak to myself the way you speak to me, gently, honestly, lovingly, without condemnation. Father, remind me that trusting myself again does not mean I will never make mistakes. It means I no longer fear mistakes. It means I believe you can redirect me when I wander. It means I trust that your hand is steady enough to guide me, even if my steps occasionally wobble. It means I know you will not abandon me to the consequences of a confused heart. You will meet me, steady me, teach me, and bring me back. As I rest in this awareness, I feel something shift inside me, a quiet confidence, humble but real, a belief that I am capable of discerning your voice, a sense that my choices can be grounded, wise, and peaceful, a reassurance that I am growing into someone who can walk with both softness and strength. Lord, let this newfound trust in myself shape the way I move through today. Let it help me make decisions with calm instead of hesitation. Let it guide me to speak truthfully, act kindly, and choose wisely. Let it remind me that I am not walking alone, I am walking with you. Learning to see myself as someone you are shaping, someone you delight in, someone you are equipping for every step ahead. And as I linger in this truth, I feel a gentle courage rising, a courage that whispers, you are no longer the person you fear you still are. A courage rooted not in my ability, but in the steady presence of the one who is guiding me every moment. Lord, as I continue from the place where you have been teaching me to trust myself again through your gentle guidance, another truth begins rising from deep within one I have avoided, resisted, or dismissed for most of my life. It is the truth that I struggle to love myself, not in a shallow, self-centered way, but in the way you desire for me, with compassion, patience, honesty, and tenderness. I realize now that a large part of my healing has been hindered because I have not known how to offer myself the same kindness I freely give to others. Father, I confess that I have spoken harshly to myself in ways I would never speak to someone I love, have pushed myself when I needed rest, judged myself when I needed understanding, silenced myself when I needed care, and shamed myself for wounds that were never my fault. I have lived under the belief that being gentle with myself was weakness, that offering myself grace was indulgent, that prioritizing my heart was selfish. But you are showing me something entirely different, that loving myself is part of honoring the work you are doing within me. Lord, teach me to see myself the way you see me. You look at me with tenderness, not condemnation. You see my potential, not just my flaws. You understand my story, not just my mistakes. You hold my fragility with care, not frustration. You are patient with my progress, even when I am not. Help me absorb this truth until my own heart begins to echo it. Father, show me how to speak to myself with your tone and not the tone of past critics or old fears. Replace the inner voice that says, I am not enough, with the truth that I am deeply loved. Replace the voice that calls me flawed with the truth that I am growing. Replace the voice that tells me I must do more with the truth that I am already held. Teach me to respond to my humanity the way you do with mercy, not judgment. As I sit here in this quiet morning space, I begin to feel what it might be like to love myself with gentleness. I imagine speaking to myself the way I would speak to someone who is hurting slowly, softly, without rushing them out of their pain. I imagine giving myself permission to heal at my own pace, to rest when I am weary, to feel when my heart aches, to grow without pressure. These imaginations feel foreign, but also freeing. They reveal how deeply I need this kind of love. Lord, help me recognize the places within me that long for care, the tired parts, the disappointed parts, the hopeful parts, the frightened parts, the parts still healing, the parts still learning. Remind me that loving myself does not mean ignoring my flaws. It means holding them with compassion while allowing you to transform them. It means believing that I am worth the gentleness you offer, worth the patience you extend, worth the healing you are nurturing. Father, teach me to love myself without guilt. For so long, I believed that self-love was self-centered, but now I see that true self-love is acknowledging that I am your creation, worthy of care, worthy of rest, worthy of compassion, because you made me with intention. Loving myself does not pull me away from you. It draws me closer, because it aligns me with the truth of how you love. Help me let go of the fear that loving myself will make me complacent. Your love never makes me stagnant, it makes me grow. When I treat myself with kindness, I become more open to your voice. When I extend grace to myself, I become more capable of extending grace to others. When I honor my heart, I become more attuned to your spirit. This is not self-absorption, this is spiritual alignment. As I breathe in this growing understanding, I feel something soften within me, a tenderness long buried, a gentleness I have rarely allowed myself to feel, a warmth spreading to places I once held with tension. I begin to see that loving myself is not a destination, it is a practice. It is choosing kindness over harshness, presence over avoidance, truth over shame, compassion over criticism. It is learning, slowly, to offer myself the very love you have always offered me. Lord, let this love shape the way I walk through today. Let it influence the decisions I make, the way I speak to myself, the way I handle my weaknesses, the way I celebrate my strengths. Let it guide me to rest when needed, to try again when discouraged, and to believe that I am worthy of the healing you are leading me into. Let it become a quiet strength within me, a strength rooted in grace, not perfection. And as I linger here a little longer, I feel a peaceful truth settling over me. I am learning to love myself, not because I have earned it, because you have loved me first. And in that love, I am finally learning how to love the person you are shaping me to become. Lord, as I continue from the place where you have been teaching me to love myself the way you love me, I feel a new awareness rising, quiet but unmistakable. I sense that you are inviting me into a deeper confidence, one that grows not from pride or performance, but from knowing who I am in you. And as this confidence begins to form, I also feel a lingering hesitation within me. A part of my heart worries that stepping into new strength means letting go of the person I used to be, someone familiar, someone cautious, someone shaped by old stories. But this morning, you are gently showing me that I am allowed to grow beyond the version of myself that pain created. Father, I confess that sometimes I hold on to my past not because it serves me, but because it feels safe. I know how to live with fear, with heaviness, with self-doubt. I know how to navigate life while expecting little from myself, but confidence real. Grounded, quiet confidence feels unfamiliar. It feels like stepping onto new ground, where I no longer rely on insecurity to protect me. And as I face this new territory, realize how much I have equated humility with staying small. But you are teaching me a different truth. Humility is not shrinking, it is standing in the truth, who you created me to be. Lord, help me release the fear of outgrowing my past. Help me understand that healing naturally changes me, and that change does not erase who I was, it redeems it. Every version of me that survived difficult seasons mattered. Every version tried, protected, persevered. But now, you are calling me into a fuller expression of myself, one shaped not by wounds, but by wholeness, not by fear, but by trust, not by shame, but by grace. Father, teach me not to confuse confidence with danger. For so long, confidence felt risky, because I believed that if I stood tall, I might fall harder. If I hoped deeply, I might hurt deeply. If I believed in myself, I might disappoint myself, but these beliefs were born from seasons where I carried pain alone. I am not alone anymore. Confidence founded in you is not fragile. It is steady, rooted, grounded. It is not about my perfection. It is about your presence. Lord, show me how confidence feels in everyday moments. Let it sound like a calm mind when worry rises. Let it feel like steady breath when uncertainty comes. Let it move through me as clarity when I used to doubt every decision. Let it guide my posture, my words, my heart. Let it be gentle, not loud, firm, not forceful, humble, not hesitant. Confidence in you is not about proving anything. It is about living aligned with truth instead of fear. As I sit in this quiet morning, I begin to see how confidence gently transforms things. It helps me speak with honesty instead of self-protection. It helps me set boundaries rooted in worth rather than guilt. It helps me walk into opportunities instead of hiding from them. It helps me trust that I have something to offer, not because I am flawless, but because you work through me. Confidence does not inflate me, it anchors me. Father, help me release the worry that others may not understand this change. Sometimes I fear that becoming stronger or more grounded might make others uncomfortable or cause them to misinterpret my growth. But you remind me that my healing is not meant to be dimmed for the comfort of those who prefer the older version of me. You are freeing me to live fully, not cautiously, not apologetically, but authentically. Teach me to honor this transformation without needing approval from anyone but you. Lord, show me how to walk into the future with this new confidence, step by steady step. Let it guide me to speak kindly to myself. Let it guide me to believe that I can handle challenges with grace. Let it guide me to trust that my heart can love, hope, dream, choose, and rise without collapsing under old fears. Let it teach me that confidence is not a sudden leap. It is a daily choice to walk in the truth of who I am becoming. And as I linger a little longer, I sense something freeing. Confidence does not erase humility, it strengthens it. When I trust who I am in you, I no longer need to strive for validation. I no longer need to shrink to feel safe. I no longer need to live under the weight of old judgments. I can stand with gentle steadiness because my identity is held in your hands. Father, let this confidence settle in me like quiet sunlight warming. Steady, patient. Let it integrate into my heart without force. Let it build upon every lesson you have taught me: rest, joy, peace, trust, self-compassion. Let it become a natural expression of the healing you have been nurturing within me, a soft assurance that I am walking into newness without leaving your presence behind. And here, in this moment, I feel the truth lifting gently inside me. I am allowed to grow. I am allowed to rise. I am allowed to walk confidently into the future you are shaping for me. Lord, as I continue from the place where you have been teaching me to walk in a new, gentle confidence, I feel another quiet invitation unfolding in my spirit. It is the invitation to learn how to receive, not just receive peace or comfort, but to truly receive every good thing you place before me without flinching, without shrinking back, without feeling unworthy of blessing. I realize how often I have stepped aside from the very gifts you longed to give me, thinking they were meant for someone stronger, someone holier, someone more deserving. But this morning, you are calling me to see that I am not disqualified from goodness. You are teaching me that receiving is part of healing too. Father, I confess that there have been many moments when you opened a door and I hesitated, not because I did not want the opportunity, but because I did not believe I was ready for it. When you brought kindness into my life, I questioned it. When you gave me clarity, I doubted it. When you offered me rest, I felt guilty for taking it. When you surrounded me with love, I struggled to let it in fully. I have been so accustomed to surviving that receiving felt foreign, almost dangerous. But you are gently showing me that I cannot grow into the fullness of what you have for me if I keep resisting your gifts. Lord, teach me to open my heart to what you are trying to place in my hands. Help me believe that blessings are not accidents, they are expressions of your love. Remind me that goodness is not something I need to earn, it is something you give because you delight in caring for me. And when my old wounds whisper that I am unworthy, speak louder with your truth. Help me embrace what comes from you without suspicion or fear. As I sit here in the quiet of this morning, I begin to see the small ways I have already been learning to receive. I notice how I breathe a little easier when peace settles over me. I notice how joy no longer startles me the way it once did. I notice how I welcome rest now instead of resisting it. These small shifts remind me that receiving is a process, one that unfolds slowly, one tender step at a time. You are patient with me as I learn, and that patient self is a gift. Father, help me understand that receiving is not passive, it is courageous. It takes courage to allow love in. It takes courage to accept hope. It takes courage to step into opportunities that stretch me. It takes courage to believe that goodness will not be taken away the moment I reach for it. Teach me to walk in this courage, not because I trust my ability to hold blessings, but because I trust your ability to sustain them within me. Lord, show me how to receive without shrinking when joy comes. Let me open my hands instead of hiding them when clarity comes. Let me trust it instead of questioning it to death. When love enters my life, let me welcome it instead of wondering when it will disappear. When strength rises in me, let me stand tall instead of stepping back into old versions of myself. Let me embrace the truth that I am allowed to receive good things without apology. As this understanding settles deeper, I realize that receiving is connected to identity. If I see myself as unworthy, I will reject what you give. If I see myself as barely enough, I will treat blessings as temporary. But if I see myself the way you see me, beloved, valued, known, I will receive with freedom. Father, teach me to see myself in the reflection of your eyes. Lord, I also recognize that receiving requires trust. Trust that what you give will not crumble. Trust that blessings are not traps. Trust that good things do not always end in pain. Trust that you are not teasing me with hope only to let it slip away. Help me trust that you give with purpose, not at random. Nothing you offer is meant to harm me. Your gifts are always covered in your goodness. Father, as I linger in this moment, I feel something shift quietly inside me, a soft readiness, a willingness to open the parts of my heart that once closed themselves with fear, a gentle desire to say yes instead of pulling back. This readiness is small, but it is real, and I know you will grow it, nurture it, strengthen it until receiving becomes just as natural as giving. Lord, let this readiness guide me today. Let it shape how I respond to kindness. Let it shape how I listen when you speak. Let it shape how I step into opportunities. Let it shape how I welcome peace, joy, rest, and love. Let it become part of who I am, not someone who flinches at goodness, but someone who receives it with gratitude and grace. And as I sit in this soft morning light, I feel the truth rising gently within me. I am learning that blessings are not threats. I am learning that goodness is safe. I am learning that I am allowed to receive all that you long to give. Lord, as I continue from all the places you have led me through, every quiet surrender, every whispered healing, every moment of truth that reshaped the way I see myself and the way I see you, I feel something in my spirit settle with a clarity that is gentle, but deeply real. It is the understanding that this journey has never been about reaching a finish line. It has always been about learning how to walk with you, moment by moment, breath by breath, sunrise by sunrise. Father, as I look back on the path we have walked, I see every step differently now. The places where I once felt fragile now look like sacred beginnings. The moments when I felt lost now appear as turning points, guiding me closer to who I was becoming. The seasons when I doubted myself are now softened by the compassion you taught me to carry. And all the spaces where I once felt alone are now illuminated with the truth that you were there, quiet, steady, shaping me gently from within. Lord, I carry gratitude for every piece of healing you have woven into my life, for the courage to face what once frightened me, for the tenderness you taught me to offer myself, for the confidence that grew not from my strength, but from you reminding me that I was never meant to walk alone, and for the ability to receive goodness without shrinking, trusting that what comes from you carries purpose, safety, and love. Father, as I breathe in this moment, I realize how much has changed, not suddenly, not dramatically, but faithfully, like light slowly filling a room that once felt dim. These changes are not loud. They are rooted, not fragile. They are lived in, and as they settle deeper into my spirit, I begin to understand that they are not simply lessons, they are foundations for everything that comes next. Lord, as this long prayer journey begins to draw to its final chapter, I feel you reminding me that endings in your presence are never true endings. They are transitions into the next season of walking, learning, becoming. You are inviting me to carry everything I have discovered forward, not as a burden, but as a quiet strength that lives within me. Teach me to continue waking each morning with openness instead of fear, trust instead of tension, and expectation instead of worry. Teach me to walk into each new day believing that growth is still unfolding, healing is still deepening, and joy is still rising in places where I once felt numb. Teach me to remember that nothing I have learned here is meant to stay contained in these pages. It is meant to breathe through the way I live, the way I love, the way I speak, and the way I continue to seek you. Father, I thank you for every person who has journeyed through these words with me, for the hearts that needed a gentle place to rest, for the souls longing to breathe again, for the spirits searching for renewal, direction, or simply a moment of stillness in a world that moves too quickly. I pray they felt held. I pray they felt seen. I pray they felt closer to the truth of who they are and the truth of who you are. To you, my dear listener who has walked all the way to this last chapter, thank you. Thank you for choosing to be here. Thank you for allowing these words to accompany your mornings, your quiet spaces, your moments of reflection. Your presence matters, your journey matters, and your faith, even the small, trembling parts of it, matters deeply to the one who holds you. If these prayers have touched you, if they have comforted you, if they have reminded you that you are not alone, I invite you to share your feelings, your reflections, or even your own prayer below. You are part of a growing family of hearts learning to seek renewal together, and your voice may be the gentle encouragement someone else needs today. And as we come to the close of this long, prayerful path, I warmly invite you to stay connected. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss the whispers of hope waiting for you each morning. Share this video with someone who may need a soft place to land. Keep walking in faith, even on the days when it feels small. Keep returning to the quiet, even when life feels loud. Keep opening your heart, even when you fear breaking again. Because healing is still happening, because grace is still unfolding, because you, Lord, are still here, leading us onward. And as the first light of morning spreads gently across the horizon, I feel its warmth settling over my spirit, a quiet reminder that every ending with you becomes a new beginning, carried on the soft glow of a rising dawn.